revenge.
And it's a graviton surge now for Decay to let go. And once more, Dallas fuel fall by the hand of a former comrade. And Dallas looks shell-shocked.
Upsets.
Goodbye, Paris Eternal. Down the well you go.
3-0 back-to-back for the Seoul Dynasty in the playoffs. With the Guangzhou Charge, however, it's down to losers and a step closer to glory.
This kind of performance is what you need to see in the playoffs.
Having fun yet?
And now this has turned into an utter massacre.
This is such a good day of Overwatch.
Yeah, it really is.
The heavyweights are showing why they're in a class of their own. The Shock just continue to roll forward.
This is peak Shanghai Dragons. This is a team to fear.
The Fusion just locking it down.
And our Cinderella teams have busted brackets and continue to roll.
The Rain are gonna do it, and they are moving on as they knock Paris down to the losers brackets.
The Eternal are done, and the Washington Justice continue the miracle run of the 2020 playoffs.
But the deeper in the playoffs you go, the pressure builds. And if you're not careful, it's lights out.
And now you can feel the pressure, the uncertainty seeping in.
This is the final chance to prove you belong.
Oh my God, what a performance.
It won't be easy.
It's all gone horribly wrong.
It will test you to your core.
Can they create history before our very eyes?
You can't let anyone off the hook. The final chance to punch your ticket to the Grand Finals weekend starts now. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another day of Overwatch APAC action. I'm Achilleos, joined by Wolf, and oh boy, do we have a pair of matches for you today. These ones should be absolutely phenomenal. Starting us off, it's going to be the NYXL going up against the Guangzhou Charge.
This is going to be one of the best weekends of APAC we have ever had. It's all down to this, the highest stake matches you could ask for. Two insane matches today, New York versus Guangzhou, as you mentioned, going to be action-packed, should be a very close match. And then our final match of the evening, Shanghai Dragons versus Seoul Dynasty, a team we've been touting as the kings of Asia, Shanghai Dragons. Will they be defeated by this new Seoul Dynasty that's on a tear right now, that has crashed through both Zhou teams on their way to where we are now? That is the question of the evening.
It very much is. Taking a look at our bracket, we can see how we got here today. Seoul Dynasty were able to get that 3-0 over the Guangzhou Charge, putting them in a pole position to perhaps move into the top 4 global teams in the league. Otherwise, Shanghai Dragons will be looking to do that for themselves. NYXL and Guangzhou Charge both knocked down into the losers bracket after those losses, and now are fighting to stay alive, to stay in the 2020 season. Loser of this series, Wolf, will be done.
That's right. It's the end of the line for one of these two teams, our first two teams competing this evening, Guangzhou Charge and New York Excelsior. There's so much on the line here. There's so much tension. You could feel it no matter where you're watching. Both these teams have fought so long for a whole year to get to this point, and only one of them is going to advance.
Yeah, I want to get a third party's opinion in here really quick to see what they think, who they think, rather, is going to find the victory. So here's Nova. Nova, who do you think is going to take it? She doesn't know. She's undecided. She's on the fence. She has no idea who's going to win this series.
She's giving that long look, like as if she thinks New York's going to choke in the playoffs, you know?
Oof, well, that's your interpretation, not mine. I didn't say it, guys. You can @ him on Twitter. Leave me out of it. But speaking of New York, if you guys didn't see the feature last week, we were able to catch up with the New York players and get their thoughts and feelings on the potential Grand Finals, first Grand Finals appearance of this organization. Let's go ahead and throw back to that.
이제 18년 때 제가 1시즌 때 MVP 받았었는데 그때 심정은 솔직히 이걸 내가 받는 게 그게 이제 좀 그 연도에 이제 제가 프로를 좀 데뷔하기도 했고 그래가지고 그냥 뭔가 하던 대로 한 건데 뭔가 이제 이렇게 MVP도 받고 해가지고 신기하다 이 정도. 네, 저희가 상위권을 유지하다가 이제 1시즌, 2시즌 둘 다 아쉽게도 플레이오프 이제 결승전을 못 갔는데
그래서 그때는 좀 더 당연히 결승전 무조건 간다라는 마인드였다면서
다들 너무 잘하는 선수들이고 팀원들이고 이제 작년이랑 재작년에 아쉽게 됐고
그런 게 멘탈에 딱히 뭐 나쁘게 작용된 거는 그때 딱 한순간 말고는 딱히 없던 것 같고 오히려 이제 좀 더 동기부여돼서 멘탈적으로 좀 더 좋아진 것 같아요. 장애 이제 그랜드 파이널에 가려는데 이제 장애물이라고 생각되는 것들은 이제 저희랑 상대하는 뭐 팀들이라고 생각합니다. 저희랑 상대하게 될 팀들이라고 생각해요.
확실히 이전 뉴욕보다는 이제 좀 더 새로운 스타일의 뉴욕.
New York City continues to excite and delight, and their team, the NYXL, no different. Welcome back.
그런 걸 향해서 가고 있는 그런 느낌이라서 이전 시즌과는 많이 다른 것 같아요.
저희 팀이 이제 북미에 있다가 아시아로 넘어오게 됐었는데 그럼 뭐 경기 뭐 차이를 비교를 해보자면은 제 생각에는 아시아 이제 팀들이 더 잘한다고 생각하고 있고.
But he's showing absolutely no respect whatsoever for the New York Excelsior. 3 kills for Fleta.
이제 뭐 상하이 같은 팀을 무조건 이기고 올라가야 결승을 갈 수 있다 생각을 해서 이제 그런 팀들을 상대하는 데 있어서 굉장히 저희가 노력을 많이 해야 되는 것 같아요.
이번 플레이오프에서는 좀 이때까지와 다르게 좀 밑에서 시작하는 게 있는 감이 있는데 감이 아니라 이제 밑에서 시작하는데 그런 게 딱히 뭐 부담은 되지 않고 밑에서부터 좀 차례차례 꺾어서 이제 올라간다는 마인드로 플레이오프를 임할 것 같습니다.
역사상 오버워치 리그에서 역사상 가장 좋았던 순간이 이제 시즌 1 스테이지 3를 우승하고 가장 좋았어요. 근데 이제 만약에 이렇게 우승하게 된다면 글쎄요, 제가 감히 그 기분을 지금 알 수가 없을 것 같아서 말을 못 할 것 같아요. 그때도 그랬거든요. 그때도 이런 기분은 처음이다 해서 평생 기억에 남는 순간을 간직하고 지내고 있는데 만약에 이번에도 그 순간이 온다면 다시 한번 평생 기억에 남을 순간을 만드는 거죠.
울지도 않을까라 그냥 그렇게 생각합니다. 이제 좀 너무 오랜만에 우승을 하는 거라
저희 멤버 3명 다 리그에 들어와서는 팀을 옮긴 적이 없기 때문에 이 팀에서는 꼭 우승하고자 하는 마음이 강할 것 같아요.
뉴욕에서 지금까지 쭉 같이 해온 멤버들이 많은데 지금 이 멤버로 우승하게 된다면 일단 너무 좋을 것 같고 지금 갈수록 멤버들이 계속 바뀌고 있잖아요. 그런데 이제 더 바뀌기 전에 예전부터 같이 해왔던 멤버들로 인해서 우승을 빨리 했으면 좋겠습니다.
Alrighty, and here are our starting 6 for the side of the NYXL. As you can see, we will have Nene coming back in alongside Hawksaw in the DPS lineup, so we'll not be seeing Seoul start this time, Wolf.
No, and this is something I was really looking forward to hopefully seeing as the playoffs kind of progress, because we know Seoul is a pretty high-level hit scan player. He's actually found a lot of success in recent weeks when he's been kind of forced into this role instead of playing the Trace or the Sombra exclusively. But because this meta is so fluid, I feel like Seoul was the right choice oftentimes because he can play, all three, the Sombra, the Tracer, and the Ashe if necessary. Obviously, sometimes Widowmaker. But Nene is more of a specialist in terms of the hit scan. And even though he's kind of been shelved, benched, whatever you want to call it, for quite some time recently, because he's had middling results, they've had so much time to kind of hone him back into this same sort of specialist role. So I'm expecting good things from him starting things off on Control. We'll see how far he goes as the series progresses, though.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if maybe some Widowmaker would come into play here. I'm not really sure, spoiler, as that'll pop up later, but Lijiang Tower will be the first map in this, and that's not going to be one of the more consistent maps that you see Widowmaker on, because in my mind, just given how Seoul's been playing, the Widowmaker difference is the big thing that kind of breaks between, breaks the two in half between he and Nene. Nene having a much more successful Widowmaker historically, but not really sure what New York has planned, but I'm excited to see it come to fruition or crash and burn, whichever it is. I don't really know. I'm on the fence again. But on the other side of the arena, we do have the Guangzhou Charge, and they're starting 6. We've seen, two of their players, Nero and Neptuno, now return to Korea to rejoin the roster, and Nero will be starting this time.
Yeah, that's right. So Nero's starting things off. He had a very impressive run last week against Seoul Dynasty. Now, a lot of people are going to scoff at that statement and say, well, Wolf, didn't they get 3-0 just like Hangzhou? That is true, but on an individual level, he played phenomenally well. He played a great Reaper. He played a lot of great Pharah, and the compositions they were running were shut down by Seoul. A lot of the time, it felt like they were playing imitations of what Seoul was running with, Prophet's Pharah, for example. Nero's Pharah, excuse me. Sometimes the heroes feel synonymous. It looked really good, right? Nero is an incredibly phenomenal player. He had a lot of off time, right? He was on the bench for quite some time because of visa issues, right? It wasn't even necessarily by choice from the coaching staff. And he had a good return despite the 0-3, so I like that they're giving him another shot here. Stakes are at their absolute highest at the moment, but still Guangzhou Charge has faith in this really young, talented player.
Yeah, tournament and season lives on the line for both of these squads as they go ahead and get ready to do battle. Lijiang Tower will be our first map for the series, as I had previously mentioned, and it will be Gardens the first round to start us off. So let's see who can take an early lead and just how close we can make this first map of Control be.
Yeah, the big question on everyone's mind is going to be, what is the hero pool? Who is playing what, right? As we come out of the gates here, it looks like Nero's showcasing the Pharah once again, at least from the get-go here in the lock-ins. Very strong hero for the map. You get bridge control early. At that walkout, you have Concussive Blast, and you have a wide area to work with where you can, scout the enemy composition and do a ton of damage to it on its approach to the point. New York Excelsior look like they want to run Sombra Reaper here. We're going to see the Nene teleport. And then he's going to actually swap to Tracer, so full Winston dive here for NYXL.
They're going for it. I'm sure a lot of Mono fans going to be happy with that, given how good his Winston has been looking. His Wrecking Ball has been right up there as well. Looking for the knock off the side of the map. Nero going to be able to find that. Breaks down the bubble. A lot of rockets being weaved in with Bionade. Sets up for the kill onto Mono. So first blood coming through here for the Pharah. APAC going to be desuited. Pilot form going to be killed off. Nene taken down by Krong, finding him with a hook shot combo. And it will be the Guangzhou Charge who are able to grab this first point.
Yeah, really nice start. I mean, that's that bridge control I was talking about. You get with the Pharah, do a ton of chip damage as the point unlocks, and then New York comes in weekend battered. You can see Jonak got half of a coalescence with all the healing output he had in that last fight, but it wasn't enough to keep those targets alive from that burst damage coming through. And you can see it again, Nero's 75% of the way to his ultimate with all the damage he's doing on New York's approach, and New York just can't close the gap. Mono can't do anything. He's done barely any damage. Closing the distance is the hardest part against this Pharah comp. Once you get on the point, you can win that fight, but getting there, that's the challenge, and they finally do touch it.
Yeah, make their way through. The contest going to be coming in now. Coalescence thrown out by Jonak, but instantly does get hacked by Happy. Great target prioritization there. Interrupts that ultimate, really limits the healing coming out. You can see that is going to be the nano boost here onto Nero as he tries to get the shots onto Anamo. Manages to find him, doesn't even have to pop the barrage yet. Guangzhou Charge still just holding on to this point as Mono's got very little HP left and is just eating right clicks. EMP still going to be committed to the fight by Happy. Manages to catch out 2 members. Pull in, gets the break on Hotbud's mech. The Pulse Bomb, however, does take down Krong. But Nero gets a scoop, getting rid of that Pilot Form Diva yet again. Nero still holds on to the barrage, waiting for his moment. Could have gotten Mono out of the fight right then and there, but likely would have finished himself off as well, given the proximity. EMP comes in, Nero gets a direct hit. Now, however, is going to be grounded. Cannot pop that ultimate, but manages to retreat outside the window, keeping himself alive and in the fight. NYXL still have not gotten this flip back through, and Nero rejoins. Takes down Mono yet again before he can use the Primal Rage. Now, Guangzhou are going to be looking to take this into one-fight territory, if not just find that 100% to 0.
I mean, it's looking more and more likely here. Nero still hasn't used his barrage because it's a liability. It makes him immobile. It makes him actually vulnerable. If he's going to hit these direct hits repeatedly with no one contesting him, why would he ever use the barrage?
They get a hack onto Shu. I mean, Mono can go in with a Primal Rage. They cannot get a sleep. They hack him out, though, and Hoxel does get taken down. Mono with the stomp finishes off the enemy Ana as the self-destruct will be used on the point by Hotba. We'll be able to make it back into the mech, and finally it seems like NYXL are showing some real signs of life as they come up with multiple kills. Both supports taken down in that fight. One of the tanks gone, and NYXL are finally on the board.
But Achilles, the ult economy is massively in favor of Guangzhou Charge here. They have total control. They have 5 ultimates coming online here. And this is all about Anamo right now. If his barrier does not go off here, if he gets hacked, if he is deleted or forced away, then this is just going to be the round going to Guangzhou Charge. Happy sees him too. He knows. He should know. I don't think he actually saw him. He does now. He certainly knows now.
That does spot him out. See if he even cares to go for that. Minefield going to be used by Rio. Happy reveals himself, going for a hack. Doesn't manage to find that one. And Amo pushing forward, comes up with a headshot kill onto Shu. EMP going to be used around the corner, and Amo drops a beat, but is only shielding himself. He didn't catch anybody else on the side of NYXL, but maybe it won't be that costly as Krong does get eliminated by Hoxel in the end. They're still holding on to the barrage, has not let that one loose yet, and might just have to wait a little bit longer as Rio does fall. This should be a reset here for the Guangzhou Charge.
There are some issues with Happy here on this Sombra. You know, his first EMP was really risky, but I think it was warranted, right? When the point looked like it might flip, he used it early. The second one here, you know, he knew where Anamo was, but still misplaced it. Huxel's had the much better time of things here, not in this case. No translocator to get out of this one.
Okay. Doesn't have that, so yeah, does just get sent off the side of the map. Nero now moving forward. Looking still for that opportunity to drop in the barrage. Getting Hoppa out of the mech would really set up for that, and Mono almost gets knocked off the side. Barely gets that leap in time to bring himself back up onto the platform. Coalescence out, Nero getting chunked a little bit, but does have that pocket healing from Chara as he takes to the sky, staying with him with that Valkyrie. Oxal lobbing in the translocator, drops down, goes for the EMP, manages to find 2. Krong and Char both going to be hacked, gets a follow-up on the Happy, finishes him off with a headshot. Krong falls low, takes a breather, gets some burst healing as well, and suddenly NYXL are going to be taking this to double OT. 95% of the board currently here for themselves as Guangzhou Charge have to step onto the point, and so far no one is doing that. Can they make it? The answer is going to be no. 199%. Pulling that one out from beneath their noses. NYXL take the first round of Gardens.
That's a heartbreaker loss of a round right there for Guangzhou Charge. They had complete control. Nero was untouchable. You know, and Hoppa wasn't really putting the pressure on him. He was having to mitigate a lot of the damage that Krong was putting out on the Roadhog. So the combination of the Far and the Roadhog together actually worked really well against Mono, right? On the Winston, made it really difficult to execute that dive composition. But once New York took that point control, despite being down ultimates, their crisis ultimate was crisis management of their ultimates, down on ultimates even, it was actually incredible. Anamo had a phenomenal game. This is one of his kills onto Rio. He had another kill onto Shu, just in a kind of side 1v1. Compositions here look like they are going to vary. With the McCree coming out for Happy, Nene wants to play this just full Symmetra, full death ball right onto the point.
See how Guangzhou Charge deal with this. Plenty of shields to go ahead and charge up off of, given that Rio is on that Reinhardt, so then he can just hold down that left click. Get that beam ready to go. Immortality Field's going to be used. Happy that slight little high ground, little height advantage as he moves to the top of the stairs, instead drops back down here with the rest of the squad. Sees the teleporter come out. Looks like they will not be able to make it through. 4 kills instantly coming out with Hoppa getting ready to go down on the back end of the fight. As Anamo tries to retreat and should be able to do so successfully.
Yep, he's just going to roll right on the edge. This should be a swap for Nene. Yeah, it is. He does go over to the McCree. You can't really approach the point with a Symmetra. You're not going to get that shield, build up onto Rio's shield, or the charge up on the Rio's shield. It's Happy it's picked off here. It was a nice flank angle from Hoxal. So you have to swap over, and you know, down a member here. This is going to be a pretty nice opening for NYXL.
Yeah, the wall comes up to cut them off, but the Guangzhou Charge just push into the members of the NYXL. They say, you know what, doesn't matter if we lost out on our McCree, we can still move forward. Mortality Field's going to be taken down by the Coalescence as Nene manages to find 2. Char and Rio both gone. A lot of healing cut out, that shield gone as well, so NYXL get on the board a lot faster this time. Only 37% built up for the Guangzhou Charge, and now New York has this defensive grab.
Yeah, they have the defensive grab, they have a defensive blizzard, and, you know, Nene's an insane McCree player, and when he has the defender's advantage, he's capable of so much here. You can see Krong's already charged up a little bit on his Zarya right now, and he's going to be one of the big engagers here. He's at 60 energy. He's going to have to survive this grab first.
Deadeye's rolling. But the wall comes up to block that one off, so doesn't manage to find anything with that. Grab now in response from Krong comes through. Blizzard going to be tossed out. Gets the freeze here onto Rio. The focus fire coming in onto the Reinhardt. A very scrappy fight back and forth, but it's only the one kill picked up here for the Guangzhou Charge as they lose out on 4, now a 5th. So we'll just have to reset and come back in, but that was a lot of their tools used.
Yeah, that's the defender's advantage for you, you know? I mean, NYXL gets the faster grab. They put Guangzhou exactly where they want them to be, and Guangzhou go for the counter grab, but NYXL are split. And the Blizzard ends up being more effective for NYXL because the Guangzhou players were already trapped in a grab and were trying to split, trying to get away from it, but they just didn't have the same amount of space to work with because of the, defensive grab coming out first for Hoppa. So taking that initiation, now they still hold this shatter.
Yeah, Matrix used for Nene here on this high ground. Sound barrier going to be used right now. Guangzhou Charge look for an opportunity. Sees the break on the shield, knows that he can get the kills, comes up with 2 on the back of the Deadeye. Great focus fire from the members of the NYXL to go ahead and shut down Rio's shield. Allows them to get those kills, and suddenly NYXL looking like they might be able to close out this Lijiang Tower 2-0, Wolf.
They look super determined. This is a very, very aggressive NYXL. Huxall, with just a few more right clicks, will have the Blizzard to probably secure this round. They're going to have the faster grab, too. This looks so unlikely for Guangzhou unless they get a rogue pick-off here or a huge shatter somehow.
Yeah, Matrix out of the corner, just peeking through that Mei wall. Krong falls low, will get caught back up slowly as Rio waits for the ice block to go away. Deadeye now out from Happy, forces them behind the center pylon here in the map. Grab comes out solo onto Rio. Immortality Field will keep him alive as Krong gets frozen. The Immortality Field gets focused down, they find the kill. Happy able to drag one back as then he will be eliminated. Again, they find more. Get this flip into their favor. Nero now gone, OT bleeding away. No one makes it to the point in time. And the NYXL, after barely scraping by with a victory in the first round, look a lot more dominant on command center. And they go ahead and are able to close out this map 2-0.
Really good plays from Huxall on the Mei in particular, too. I mean, he was able to get that right click onto Happy, which was part of the reason why they got that super fast flip in the first place. They had that numbers advantage. Guangzhou engaged, right, failed. We saw Krong get grabbed before he could use his own grab. Just really initiative play from New York. They're not waiting. They're not playing defensively. New York has, historically been an extremely defensive team in 2018, 2019. But in 2020, it's a new roster. You've got Huxall on your roster now. You can't be the defender all the time. And they're playing aggressively. They're catching Guangzhou out. They're taking really good team fights, and they're managing their ult economy better. This is a great start, a great look here for New York in our first map.
Yeah, really, really strong for them there in that second round especially, but now it will be the Guangzhou Charge's map pick moving forward. We'll see if that's going to give them that slight edge to try and tie up this series and keep things extended. No one wants to, at this point, go out 0-3 to end their season. Guangzhou Charge, you can bet, are going to be fighting tooth and nail to make it happen, to make sure that they can keep the series going, towards a victory for themselves. We'll see what their map pick is going to be and whether or not they can get that done when we come back from the break. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right, we are back. We're just one map into this series between the NYXL and the Guangzhou Charge. Both teams fighting to stay in the 2020 season. Loser will have to just wait until 2021 to start all over again. But NYXL are able to take the first map, Lijiang Tower. A very close first round. A bit of a botch on the recontest there for the Guangzhou Charge. Kind of got scrambled, costs them, and then NYXL come back in for the second round. Very dominant performance there, Wolf. And now they start the series up 1-0.
I mean, New York looks really clean so far. I mean, Nene is playing the heroes you expect. I mean, the McCree looking really solid, right? And this is something that Sabielby's had to flex onto for, I mean, realistically about a month of recent league play. So this is something that, you know, I think New York fans have been perplexed by. You know, we were wondering about. You and I were talking about last week. Like, this is the moment where you miss Pine a little bit, right? He's talking about making a return to pro play. Meanwhile, but obviously that's not going to be in time for playoffs. And then he steps into his own shoes, right? He steps into his own old shoes, his own old role, and lights up the first map. So exciting to see. Our map is going to be Numbani here for set 2. And this is another map I feel like that really plays into New York style. Historically speaking, Mono has had his best Winston games on a defensive Numbani. It's a map where Hoppa can play Zarya really well. You can obviously play the Diva. And, you know, this map pick is a bit of a puzzling one for me for Guangzhou because you're not playing towards a strong Pharah map here, in my opinion. You're not playing towards a great map for, you know, the Roadhog style they imitated from Seoul. So this one is like, okay, I'm going to play Rio Winston versus Mono Winston and hope for the best. It almost feels like here. And I feel like that's not a card you want to play here, not in game 2 after a rough loss that, you know, could have been avoided. I mean, it was a very close first round, as you mentioned. And that was a very winnable map for Guangzhou, and I don't know if this is the plan B to be swapping to.
A limited play on this map at the Guangzhou Charge. I believe it was just the one time that they've actually played this. Did get a win. Historically not great for NYXL. 1-3 currently this season here on Numbani. Are not going for the Pharah defense as you were kind of talking about. I thought maybe we would see, you know, Ashe Pharah perhaps, but the Sombra, I guess, just way too important, so they want to make sure that they have Happy piloting that pick for them. Let's see what NYXL lands on after they do a little bit of scouting. You can see the majority of the team still sitting inside the spawn room. We'll just be swapping it up, going to the Winston here again for Mono.
It's a mirror. Happy scouts, so obviously everyone can see it now. And, you know, this is going to be a real big test for Rio, I want to say. He needs to be extremely patient because in this mirror, if you get hacked and then it gets on top of you as a Winston, you are going to die so quickly. He needs to be very careful with how he uses his bubble and how he engages.
Yep, bubble already going to be used as Hoxall makes his way into the back. Can't get a hack off. As Hoppa looks to display some people from the high ground. You can see the collective drop down going to be coming through from the Guangzhou Charge as they look to just stay together and then try to push back onto the point where currently a single tick will be grabbed up by the NYXL. 3 minutes remaining. They get a little over halfway towards that second one as the recontest now comes in for the Guangzhou Charge, moving their way up. Hack comes out onto Krong. No D-Matrix going to be available to mitigate the damage coming out from this Reaper. Second tick picked up as NYXL are just looking to force the Guangzhou Charge off of this point, but Mono has overstepped just a little bit. They get the collapse onto the enemy Winston. Krong taking him down, but Rio just gets absolutely destroyed, melted before he can use the Primal Rage, and that could be a big turning point here in the fight for the side of the NYXL. EMP comes up first for Hoxall, throws that one out, instantly finds 3, including both of the supports, just for good measure, and he will go ahead and commit the Death Blossom to the fight to clean up 3 more, and that will be the cap with just shy of 5 minutes in the time bank for NYXL.
I mean, Overwatch is at the highest level of game of small differences, the tiniest differences in play and speed, and Hoxall gets his EMP about 5% faster. And look at Chara in the top right. He's hacked at this moment, can't provide a sound barrier. Krong's out of position. It's blown up, you know, after the hack comes through, is blown up by this explosion here coming through the Death Blossom. And now Nene is just like, okay, well, that's all I needed. Happy's got his EMP now, but the hardest part is over for NYXL, despite being behind, despite losing Mono early in that fight.
Yeah. Now looking to press the defensive issue here for the Guangzhou Charge. They have nearly all 6 ultimates available to try and gain control of this cart on the corner. Rio's going to pop that Primal Rage, does get hacked, so now can't leap into the back line to try to displace anybody. Instead, will just be smacking Mono away from his team as best as possible. And Happy gets caught. Coalescent finishing off the enemy Sombra before he can use the EMP, and Huxel is now going to be lapping him. Has another one ready to go. Throws the Translocator up over the top, throws out the EMP. Rio already going to be gone, as yet again, it's Prong, Char, and Shu all caught by the EMP. Char under fire, trying to retreat, will just get finished off here at the end because he knows he can't use the sound barrier now. He has to save it.
And look at Happy still holding this EMP, but you know, when's it going to come out and how impactful is it going to be? Huxel just doing a quick spy check because he knows Happy's still got that EMP, hasn't used it yet. And he does a spy check, gets the hack there. And we've got to see an aggressive play here from Guangzhou. They're going to have to seize the day here. You're going to have to look for a fight. Very aggressive push here from Happy, does avoid the spy check and is undetected, so Risk does get rewarded if he can get this off here, if he can get a big one.
Sees the leap out, says, okay, you know what? They're pulling back. I can just go ahead and continue to poke out. Hopefully we can get some kills.
Namo's ready.
Buy some time off of this clock. Hasn't been able to do so yet. EMP does come out. Anamo is ready, as you say. Gets the beat off, but it will be Mono still getting taken down despite the shielding out from the Lucio. So there still will be a nice little stall for the side of the Guangzhou Charge, buying them some much-needed time, as there's still 4 minutes and 6 seconds remaining in the time bank here for New York.
Looks like they want to set up for another Huxel EMP into this Blossom, and Huxel is so close to it.
He's almost there. 10% now left to go. As Rio retreats back around the corner with Prong as they try to stay alive. Are able to do so thus far. Coalescence out from Shu, keeping them topped up. Nene TP's in, has to Wraith walk away. A little bit of an overstep from him, but still holds on to the Death Blossom. Now Rio going to be gone. The EMP comes out. Sound barrier out from Chara. Does manage to get some majority of the team, but there's so much damage, so much focus fire onto Happy. They know how close he is to that next EMP. They know that that could be the one thing that really stops this cart from moving forward. So they get rid of him, delaying that further and just moving their way up. Rio jumps back in. Krong has to go ahead and use the self-destruct to remech. Nero going to be teleporting into the back, has the Blossom ready to go, but spots out the Diva, knows that he can't use it, and instead everybody just turns on to him and takes him down. Doesn't get an opportunity and might not get one. There you go, no one touching the point. The cart just inches in. With 3 minutes and 7 seconds remaining, New York have completed Numbani.
A Happy EMP is at the end to remind everyone that he was almost there, but almost just doesn't cut it at this level of play. And again, he's just a moment too late for a game-changing ultimate. There are definitely winners and losers of a new meta, right? But sometimes you see new big patches come into Overwatch and they really shake things up. You and I have cast quite a few, and everyone remembers Janu's Wrecking Ball coming into the Contenders Season 2 finals, right? Where suddenly we see this insanely new hero coming through on a new patch in a grand finals. But there are winners and losers of this hero pool being removed and this sudden new playoff meta, right? Everyone remembers Washington Justice as the second worst team, right, for most of the season. And now they're making a tear through playoffs. They're winners, right, of this new meta. Seoul Dynasty are also winners of this new meta. They figured it out, and they have, taken a tear through the playoffs. And it's a controversial thing to talk about. A lot of people don't like that a meta will change right before finals, but that's the reality we're living in, right? And Guangzhou Charge feel like big losers here in this case, right? They've got Happy on this Sombra. He hasn't played it that much this season. Huxel had a weak Sombra to start things off, but he's massively improved recently, so that's a bad matchup for them. They're playing against Mono's Winston now in a mirror, which isn't going well for them. And they just last week tried to imitate Seoul's new meta, and they looked exactly like that in imitation, and it just feels like they can't get their heads around, rather, this new meta we're playing in as well as New York has.
Trying to get the pinch on a Huxel, cannot finish him off. Doesn't get too much ult charge though, so at least a little bonus here for the Guangzhou Charge as Happy makes his way around the back and will begin going on the hunt for a hack target. Playing this one out patiently, does go ahead and reveal himself there at the end. Bubble used from Rio as they pull back around the corner. A lot of damage going out onto the members of the NYXL Hot Button, nearly getting demech'd right there. Then he will drop down to rejoin with the rest of the squad. Deep into the back hour by himself is Happy. Gets focus fired yet again. Nene cleaning up the kill. Point being contested right now by both teams. Then they're going to be TPing forward. They get the hack now onto Rio. It's really all up to Krong with this defense matrix to try to keep his Winston safe. Hack expires. Coalescence rolling. First from Shu. Now Jonak going to be matching. They push out onto the point, but already Hoppa going to be gone. But they manage to collapse on top of the enemy Moira. Nanamo gets a killing blow to finish off Shu. Point likely going to have to be abandoned.
They have to abandon it. They
see a reset here. Yeah, Guangzhou Charge have to go again.
They can't fight. They were so close to turning that around with Shu's Coalescence. He's killed by Anamo, of all people. And now New York have this EMP. Happy's almost there. But he's not going to be able to pull the trigger first, not unless they do a slow push here. But the clock is ticking down. This is not where you want to be versus an enemy EMP. Is all coming through at once. So they have to be very careful about how they engage this.
Well, there you have it. 4 members going to be hacked, but Char does have the sound barrier. Can they convert this into a team fight win is now the question. On the side of the Guangzhou Charge. Got back up the top from Mono, looking to recontest, but Nero is just cleaning up, man. Just a find to a boop off the side of the map onto Anamo. Char getting some revenge here for Shu in that last team fight. Mono and Hotba back over here trying to keep things going. Point still not being contested. Mono will get finished off, and Hotba with very little HP on that mech. We'll grab a Mega Pack to try to get back into the fight. Happy looking for that hack, can't quite find an ammo. Knows he's got that sound barrier.
They want to contest?
Have an idea that he has this. Because they have that shield, they're going to push back forward. Death Blossom comes out, going to be matched now by Nero. With the help of Happy, they will go ahead and finish off Nene before he can do some more damage. Char, however, going to be out. Krong now. D-Mech, self-destruct going to be used, looking to buy some space, and it has bought enough. Cap comes in onto point A as NYXL are now going to have to try and retreat.
Both fans of both teams should be insanely happy about how that fight went, or how that point went. Guangzhou Charge showed signs of life for the first time really on this map and had a great counter engage to Huxell's first EMP. The sound barrier was perfect. Rio's engage was nice. And New York Excelsior, on the other hand, showing insane decisiveness in a playoff series. What feels like the first time since 2018, since that very first playoffs they played in 2018. This is phenomenal stuff. I mean, this is really historical for New York, the way they're playing right now. Huxell kills a translocator, is looking for more.
Gets the hack on the Char, gets a lot of damage on them as well. You can hear those headshots coming through. Meanwhile, Happy over on the cart uses the EMP, manages to find Nero before the sound barrier comes out from Anamo. Coalescence rolling as well, just going to be chipping away at the members of the NYXL as they look to create some space for this cart due to the Guangzhou Charge. With Mono going down, they'll find a hell of a lot of space. In fact, can go ahead and continue pushing forward towards point B. If they can roll this through with little opposition, then suddenly the time bank disparity is not as much of a concern for the Guangzhou Charge.
It's about this lack of sound barrier for Char right now. He does actually avoid that, and Huxell doesn't know he doesn't have it. So he actually misses a chance.
Huxell gets forced out. Char will be able to have this sound barrier online for the next fight when Huxell looks to use this EMP. Question just is, can he avoid the EMP yet again? Has been pretty good about it so far in the series. Huxell falling low, Jonah keeping him topped up. Chara hovering on the high ground. They have to know exactly where he is by now. EMP still going to be used. The sound barrier comes out. Char catching all 6 members on the side of the Guangzhou Charge. Follow-up hack goes through onto Lucio. Rio falling dangerously low. It seems like he will get enough healing pushed back out to keep him in the fight so he can continue, as can the rest of the team. Self-destruct from Krong, managed to find Huxell. TP now coming out from Nero. Works his way into the back, holds onto the Death Blossom, waits for his moment, now drops it. See the D-Matrix coming through there from Hoppa, mitigated just a little bit of that damage, but they got the break on the mech, they get the supports, and they get point B.
Yeah, New York was just playing for stall time there. I mean, they were playing extremely haphazard. They were just kind of diving onto the point, tossing in some of the easier ultimates to build the Primal, the EMP, right? Trading out the sound barrier there. Guangzhou Charge, sure, they have an EMP right now available, but it's not going to be the one that closes out the map, not yet, and the time is already in favor of NYXL. So NYXL is just saying, okay, I think you're going to finish the map, but we're going to have a better start on our second run. That was the plan. That was the stall strategy here. Happy somehow avoids detection here behind Hotba. I was looking for that big EMP.
They're using the bushes as cover. EMP does come out on Amo again. Johnny on the spot with the sound barrier. So far, nobody going to be taken down on either side. Follow-up hack, however, onto Rio. Denies the use of the Primal Rage, so he will fall. A trade out on the Winstons, but given the defensive positioning here for the NYXL, it is going to be the Guangzhou Charge having to pull back rather than pressing the issue.
Yeah, Huxell going to have that EMP combo set up with Nene that they've been really loving to use so far in this series. Chara, again, getting outpaced, so that this time they're not going to have the sound barrier. Now, again, Huxell doesn't know that for sure, but he can reasonably assume this is going to be one of the toughest fights Guangzhou has to take.
Yep, EMP now out. 3 members Packed on the side of the Guangzhou Charge. Happy the first one to fall. Mono still eliminated by Nero. Manages to find that kill and almost has his Death Blossom online. Now gets it. Death Blossom used from Nene.
Pretty poor one as well from Nene there.
It doesn't deliver too much. Sound barrier comes in from Chara. Knows that Hoxall is quite a ways away from that EMP and they want to get across the finish line. Wraith Walk used from Nero to keep himself safe. Goes out. Doesn't use the Death Blossom, but still does get taken down. But he and Chara now falling. Guangzhou Charge again. Gonna have to reset and go for a last second push.
So unfortunate. I mean, a really nice boop from Chara, and Nene didn't react correctly, popped his Death Blossom. He's halfway to another one here. That was a small blunder that allowed Guangzhou what it looked like was to outlast in that fight, but they used their sound barrier regardless. And now they're just simply down on ultimates here. As long as Anamo is in position, which he has been for every single EMP, to get this barrier off here, Guangzhou have a huge uphill battle. And even if they win the first fight, there's going to be delay. There's going to be stall. This looks like an overtime finish. Best case scenario here for the Guangzhou Charge right now. Uh-oh, and I don't know if he's going to block it.
EMP comes out. Namo, he does have the barrier yet again to go ahead and deny the follow-up from the Guangzhou Charge. Answering EMP is absolutely huge from the side of Hoxall, catching 5 members yet again. Rio going to be taken down, doesn't get to use the Primal Rage. They get the headshot kill onto Nero. Chara now eliminated. 45 seconds left in the time bank for the Guangzhou Charge with just 2 ultimates to use. Can they make this happen? It is looking less and less likely, and even if they can finish the map, it's likely going to be in overtime. Wolf.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I was saying just before. I mean, it just feels like they're checkmated here in terms of the ult economy. I mean, sure, now they have the advantage, but they still have to close a large gap before they can even use that slight ult advantage that they have right now. And New York could just buy so much time. They're going to have so many stall heroes coming out as well if we even get to that final point.
Their way forward, Rio is looking to see if he gets hacked. Nene actually going to be one to receive this as they try to collapse onto the Reaper, but he almost turns it around, forces out the Primal Rage from Rio as we move down into overtime. Somebody has to touch the cart. They barely managed to do so there at the last second. Cart now going to be moving forward as Nene goes into the TP around the back. Death Blossom dropped in. Bubble comes out, does keep the team protected. Nene almost eliminated, fell down to 5 HP, I believe, before he manages to exit with that Wraith Walk. Huge moves from him. They get a break onto Hot Buzz Mech and finish off that Baby Diva. EMP comes through. Sound barrier out from Anamo yet again, shielding up the rest of the team that is still alive. Now Hoxall responds in kind. Chara tries to come in, tries to be the hero, drops the sound barrier, but it's too late for Rio. He's already out of the fight. Strong cannot stay in the mech. They take him down. The Death Blossom from Nero sets up for a kill onto Mono, but they need a hell of a lot more than that if they want to get this payload moved into the finish line. Self-destruct into the back line, finds Nero. They get the cleanup onto Chara again, and it was a very nicely fought fight there at the end from the Guangzhou Charge, but it's not good enough to get them to the end of Numbani to try and play for a draw. Instead, it is NYXL successfully winning on Guangzhou's map pick and moving up to match point. They are 1 map away from knocking the Guangzhou Charge out of the 2020 season.
I hate to say it, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it feels like the Zhous are going 0-9 here in playoffs. Already, Hangzhou eliminated 0-3, Guangzhou getting 3-0'd by Seoul, and are now in prime position to be defeated by NYXL 3-0 as well, without a win apiece between Hangzhou and Guangzhou in this playoffs. And this is actually quite insane. I did not expect this series of the 2 to be the really one-sided one. I thought this one was going to be close. I thought this was going to be back and forth. But again, New York just shows a greater grasp on the meta right now. And it doesn't feel like that's going to change in our game break.
Yeah, I mean, they get a little bit of extra time because we have that game break coming up. So maybe Guangzhou Charge can try to stabilize, but this is such a rough position to be in. Already losing on one of their map picks, now have just, 1 more left to go, and they have to get a victory on that. It will be Temple of Anubis as potentially their final map pick of the 2020 season. They need to pull off a reverse sweep. They need to focus in and try to get something going for them, try to get ahead of NYXL. So far, they have not been able to do that outside of the first round of Lijiang Tower. It's a really rough position to be in, so hopefully these guys can utilize every single minute of the break that they have available. When we come back, Wolf and I will be breaking down these first 2 maps, so stay tuned. Game break is going to be coming up in just a bit.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for our game break presented by Pringles Wavy. We're 2-0 up right now for the NYXL in this series. They are looking to knock out the Guangzhou Charge and advance into the losers bracket final.
Yeah, I was muted. Sorry. Saying New York was on a tear recently, and it has been on a tear recently, and they really have, you know, it hasn't been easy, right, to get to where we are now, but it feels like Guangzhou has been their easiest opponent yet. I mean, they have a really good grasp on the meta. They're showcasing multiple parts of it, right? We starting on Lijiang, we already saw some Mei, we saw Nene on McCree, we're seeing Huxall's improved Sombra. And it feels like Guangzhou is just back to square one. It feels like they're back where they were when we were looking at them, you know, just last week, where they got demolished by Seoul Dynasty. Is still trying to pick up the pieces, still trying to figure out what this meta means for them. They're reintroducing Nero back into the roster, and he's playing well, and he's a very good Reaper player. His FAR has obviously been quite phenomenal. And, you know, I would almost even argue that he's playing a better Reaper than what we're seeing on the New York side in a lot of these cases, in a lot of these team fights. But the overall picture is definitely not as strong on the Guangzhou side. We're seeing some missing links from Happy. And if I jump into my crunch time presented by Pringles Wavy here, I want to talk about two players for Guangzhou Charge. There's two players in particular that have really stood out this entire year for Guangzhou, and they're two players that have had ups and downs in their careers so far. Neither of these players are new to competitive Overwatch. They've been playing in their respective regions for a long time, and those players are Eileen and Krong. Both of those players shown all year.
MVP candidates.
Both those players have all year have looked phenomenal until the playoff meta changed, right? Eileen's not in because the hero pools that we're seeing here don't suit him as much. If you run Eileen on the Sombra, you miss the other parts of Happy's hero pool that are sometimes required in this meta, right? The Ashe, the long-range hit scan. Krong is relegated away from his incredible Sigma and onto and even further away from his pretty good Zarya, pretty awesome Zarya, I'd even go as far as to say, onto Diva, a hero that he can't make the same impact on, it feels like, as his Sigma, which has pushed him into Rookie of the Year potential status. You know, everybody's talking about him. This is not Guangzhou's meta, and it's really unfortunate that they're kind of stuck in this situation 2 matches back-to-back, and people might say, wow, they really bombed out of the playoffs. Remember that 2020 where Guangzhou just went 0-6, and it was like, what? They were so good before that. I feel like a lot of people are going to remember this playoffs that way if they lose this next map. But I think that we have to remember the meta here. We have to remember the circumstances upon which Guangzhou is playing, and it does not favor what they looked strong on all year long.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't. And I mean, to a more, I was going to say meta point, not talking about the game's meta, but just like the overall season for the Guangzhou Charge. I mean, these guys already dealt themselves a tough hand to work with by having, multiple languages on the same roster. Then everything else happens with the global pandemic. And, they have these players who cannot be in Asia all the time, get displaced, have to go back to their home countries to get their visas. And this is the second time that Nero and Neptuno have had to do visa runs. This is the second time that they have done quarantine. Neptuno just got out of quarantine a couple days ago, and unfortunately, we might not get to see him play at all.
Yeah.
He might have done a 2-week quarantine for nothing if he doesn't get fielded here, and if the Guangzhou Charge cannot turn this around and pull off a reverse sweep. They haven't had their full roster. They were still able to find success, obviously, with Eileen, but it feels like with the hero pool changes, with Nero being able to come back in and play, they want to play the meta, but unfortunately, the synergy as well is just not there for the roster. They need some more time that they just don't have available to them.
Yeah, I mean, the quarantine factor is something that you and I have both personally done twice. I'm still doing my second one as we speak. I have like 5 days left. It's not a fun experience. It's very grueling. It's very difficult. There's just been so many circumstances that Guangzhou have been through because of this year and because of the pandemic that we all face, and everyone's going through it in the entire world. It's not unique to Guangzhou, but it feels like the circumstances that they built their team for are not the circumstances we're playing in now. And it does feel unfortunate because this is not a bad series by Guangzhou. And their series last week, I mentioned it several times against Seoul, was not an extremely weak performance by them. No individual player was bombing, right? Happy's had some issues, last week and this week on the Sombra. We will admit that, right? But this is a team that looks good on paper, And if we were going into a best of 7 right now, I might still say, who knows? But 0-2 after an 0-3 last week, New York looks extremely confident. They look extremely prepared. I can't see a comeback here. I can't see the reverse sweep. I can't see it with my telescope. I can't fathom it right now. And I think even the most hardcore of Guangzhou fans right now is probably hating every word that's coming out of my mouth, not because I'm saying it, because they know it's true too. This is one of the most unlikely comebacks we may see, and if we do see it, it will be incredible. But I don't know, Achilles, if that's what's about to happen when we go into this third map.
I mean, it would be a monumental reverse sweep. The most important one that the Guangzhou Charge could ever pull off, in their careers, barring one in the grand final of the Overwatch League. Tournament life still very much on the line, but we'll see if they can do it. We'll see if they can take at least one step closer, put a map win on the board with their pick of Temple of Anubis. That's going to do it for our game break and for our crunch time presented by Pringles Wavy. When we come back, we'll have the rest of this series, see if Guangzhou can get that ball rolling or if NYXL will just shut them down 3-0.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
천천히 소리 소문 없이 가고 있었네요. 아, 저거 근데 사실
点数这样一踩的话，可能广州还得花。
이 정도 교환되면 써줄만 하다.
네. 그래서 기다리고 기다리다가 결국 에이지
우와, 우와,
这边已经被卡掉了，这边的话又是倒，是的。
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to get on with the rest of this series between the NYXL and the Guangzhou Charge. NYXL currently leading 2-0, meaning that Guangzhou have to pull off a reverse sweep if they want to stay in the 2020 season and advance into the losers bracket finals versus, well, we don't know yet. It would be the loser of the Seoul Dynasty versus Shanghai match. So either way, a very tough opponent for either of these teams. So already a daunting task on the horizon, but even more so when you're staring down the barrel of a necessary reverse sweep as the Guangzhou Charge are right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know, if Guangzhou ends up facing Seoul, for example, that's the team that 3-0'd them just last week, right? So obviously there'll be some extra time before we go into that top 4, you know, if they make it past that as well. But right now there's no time, right? I mean, we talked about this earlier about how, you know, they can adapt, or maybe they could try to learn, figure out what New York's doing, but there's not really much to learn here. New York's playing the same sort of style we've seen from them last week, that we've seen from majority of the teams, not only in APAC, but also North America. And, you know, Guangzhou's playing their own version of the style, and often just straight mirroring, but they're a little bit behind in terms of the coordination, like you were pointing out earlier in our halftime. And, you know, I mean, Happy is a little bit behind in terms of his EMP builds. His EMP timings haven't been as good. Anamo's been phenomenal at shutting those down. It's been a rough series here for Guangzhou. And again, besides, I feel Happy and maybe Rio, you know, having some trouble on the Winston, it's not a bad game. It's not a game where you type, well, that was a way to go out. Man, you know, how did Guangzhou just mess this up that bad? Or like, what a throw, or what a choke, right? It's not like that. It's just New York's outclassing them ever so slightly.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big reasons why I, you know, wanted to talk about Guangzhou Charge and their extended difficulties that they've had throughout the season is because I don't want people to give up faith in this team, this organization, in this roster. I think if these guys are able to stick together, you know, after the season ends, regardless of a win here or not, I think there is still a ton of promise. Obviously, they were able to win the Summer Showdown. They have shown that they can compete with the best teams in the world. They're a lot more consistent than we saw from them in their inaugural season last year. And I hope that people don't just throw in the towel on the Guangzhou Charge if they lose this series right here, right now.
I don't think they will, but, you know, I do agree. You know, I do agree. All right, it's going to be attack first for NYXL. Then they're going to swap off this Widow, jump right back to the spawn room, onto the Reaper. And it is just going to be that Reaper dive with Sombra for both squads here. Again, something that Mono excels at, that Rio has just simply not been given the same support. Already used his leap here for a few more seconds. That's a risky moment. Does get it back.
It is. Drops down the bubble, leaps up into the air. He's being pursued by Hotba. They get a good amount of damage onto him, and even with the defensive positioning, the jumps coming out, he's had to retreat so much that Mono is able to take a very slight lead. Now, he'll go ahead and push forward as he manages to find Happy in the back, finishing him off. Mono's still going to be relatively healthy overall. So the Guangzhou Charge, wholesale, are just going to be shoved up the staircase around the backside of the point. Second tick now getting ready to come in for free for the New York Excelsior. Recontest getting ready to come through. That's the point right at the last second. 97.2% now going to be built up for the NYXL. Coalescence rolling here for Shu. Jonak now has his in response. Anamo a little bit further ahead towards that sound barrier as well. So the defensive ultimates certainly are going to be there for the NYXL if they want to keep this fight going. More importantly though, EMP is ready. Throws it out. Hoxel does die instantly, but it might not matter, and it does not. The kills come in on the back end. He got enough people on the side of the Guangzhou Charge for NYXL to capitalize, and now they're getting ready to move into point B. with a Death Blossom, a Primal Rage, Self-Destruct, Sound Barrier. There's so many tools here.
Chara,
Guangzhou Charge, they're close, but they're just straggling behind just a little bit too much.
Chara is 10% away. Well, he was. He's 5% away now from that Sound Barrier, and that's going to be, I think, the big deterrent here. I don't think NY Excel necessarily wants to blow all their ultimates right now to try to get this insane time bank with a double cap, because that could just actually backfire with Happy having a defensive EMP, and Chara getting the Sound Barrier off could actually really waste a lot of their ults here. Let's see what they decide to do, how much they commit. Then he sneaks around the back. And there's no Matrix here if Krong goes down.
Yep. Off the point right now, Rio goes in, Primal Rage does come through, leaps up into the air. Eluding Nene as much as he possibly can, knows that he will get ripped to shreds if he lands in front of that Reaper. For now, NYXL going to be held off the point, still sitting around the catacombs here on the left side. Happy.
Yeah, and
makes his way into the back. EMP is ready. Throws out the EMP, gets the interrupt, but Anamo again does not get clipped by the hack. Drops down the beat. They go back out with the shields rolling, trying to find success. Death Blossom comes through. D-Matrix is there to chew up the damage. Now Nene waiting for his opportunity. Drops it in, finds Nero. Will get taken down by the Coalescence out from Shu. Long falling low, does get knocked out of the mech, gets forced to use that self-destruct. Hoppa using his own. Neither is going to be finding any kills, but Hoxel will capitalize on the Baby Diva, finishing off Krong. The tanks still waiting to respawn as the second tank comes through on the point. Still 4 minutes in the time bank here for the NYXL as they look to finish this map. Coalescence comes in, EMP going to be tossed, but Chara evades that one, drops the beat, shielding up his teammates, trying to keep them alive as Nero will manage to take down Mono. Hoxel looking for another target, drops down, gets a hack onto the Mega Pack. Now we'll be waiting for the re-approach as NYXL do go ahead and they pull out of the point.
God, I really feel like Reaper for Nero is such a good fit. He's playing it so well. He's had so many really nice moments ultless, right? I mean, sure, if you look at the Reaper matchup, you might think, oh, okay, Nene is just crushing it. He's winning on every metric. That's because Hoxel's had these EMPs to set him up so many times that Nero has had less EMPs, and he's still finding big impact. Happy, speaking of EMPs, has another one online here, is undetected. Nero's trying to give him a little bit of extra room here to breathe with as he looks for his Death Blossom.
I'm surprised he actually stays there. Pushes up around the corner. Again, the Sound Barrier going to be coming through from Anamo. Catches 5 members on the side of the NYXL. Hack now going to be expiring, meaning that Mono, unless he gets a follow-up hack, can pop this Primal Rage, and he wills. He makes his way into the back line. Hack now comes through, can't leap to rejoin the rest of his squad, but it might not matter as Nene pushing forward. Finds Rio all out on his lonesome. Does manage to take him down before he can use a Primal himself. Self-destruct goes up over the top. Nene retreats in behind the sarcophagus. Is Krong. He'll make it back into the mech. Death Blossom from Nero finds Hoxel. Knew that he had that health pack hacked and does manage to finish him off. That's going to allow for Happy to catch back up. The Matrix comes through, but no, Krong going to be melted out of that mech, so cannot continue to protect his squad. Nene finishes off that pilot form Diva. As Rio goes in with a Primal Rage, looking desperately to find a kill. Gets a cleave in, Chara collapses. Jonak going to be gone. They finish off Nene as well, and it seems like yet again the Guangzhou Charge will be able to hold on.
Yeah, really nice play by Nero to catch Hoxel there. Without that catch on the Mega Pack, as you mentioned, he knew it was hacked. He knew that was where, that's kind of Hoxel's home base, right? He knows it's a free kill if he just pops that after the translocator's on cooldown. And then Hoxel can't EMP in the longer fight. If Hoxel lives, look at the check mark he's got in his ult bank right now. He would have had that before Happy. I would have hit that. You know, Chara has Sound Barrier. It's a whole different ball game. You know, we might actually have that final tick coming across. But now, you know, Guangzhou survived. They have the Sound Barrier ready. And this is definitely defendable.
Yep, EMP catches 3. Hoxel going to be taken down instantly. Sound Barrier does get used from Anamo, but without Hoxel in this fight, can they keep things going? Self-destruct going to be tossed out. Krong almost knocked out of the mech by that. Coalescence will come through from Shu to go ahead and try to top the rest of the team back up. Hoxel going to be sprinting his way back over where Chara will be waiting, trying to counteract the EMP yet again with another well-timed Sound Barrier. Rio goes in, EMP going to be used solo onto the Winston, but it does work. They manage to take him out as he cannot exit to go back in with the rest of the squad. Feeling he's got some wiggle room here, Chara drops down the Sound Barrier, shields up the rest of the squad. Krong, the hack will expire as he stays safe for a little bit longer. Gets forced out of the mech, uses the self-destruct. Hoxel going to be gone. Nero again comes in with the Death Blossom, but this time it will be Nene who comes out on top. Strikes him down. Get the follow-up now onto Rio. Chara up on the wall, trying to stay elusive, trying to keep things contested on the point. Cannot stay alive long enough. It seems like NYXL should finally have made this happen. Coalescence out as it's a solo Moira. The focus fire comes in. They try to shove him off the point. It actually will lead to a break on the mech of Hotba, forcing him to use the self-destruct, and now Mono is going to be taken down. They get a hack on the Nene, and oh my god, I think that the Guangzhou Charge might just have made this turnaround happen.
And they've got
Happy still holding on to an EMP. The rest of the team is going to be retreating. There's 20 seconds remaining.
New York get one more fight here, and Mono will build the Primal as long as he doesn't get hacked and killed off point. He's at 72% right now. Happy's going to have this off-point EMP, very likely just across the bridge. That's the game plan here. He's looking for it at the midpoint.
Namo gets hit. It's game over. They should have seen him down on that lower right side.
They need to hack on Mono so badly.
Bubble comes out, will be denying that one away. The EMP is going to be used, and Amo again has a sound barrier. Comes out from around the corner. Hotba, however, does not receive the shields and will get taken down. Hero swaps over onto the Tracer, low HP. Rio going to fall, a tank for a tank so far. As Hotba tries to pistol his way back into the mech. They have not been able to finish off that Baby Diva yet.
There's the Primal.
Will go ahead, he drops that down, gets back into the mech. The Death Blossom from Nene, wreaking havoc, finds Krong, finds Chara. They start ticking their way back up, but they haven't gained any percentage yet. Oxel jumps up over the top, looking for some more kills, some more targets to hack as the rest of the Guangzhou Charge string their way out onto the point. Rio pops the Primal Rage, but there's just too much damage. Then he finds the headshot to go ahead and finish him off, and it seems like this should just be a matter of time. Self-destruct thrown down on the corner, looking for a pick, will not be able to find one. Krong will not be able to survive, and Chara cannot get there in time to use the sound barrier to try to keep the fight going. But man, what an effort from the Guangzhou Charge. They rolled over on point A, but then they got bunkered in for point B.
Yeah.
Over 4 minutes defended on that.
I mean, you know, that last fight, there was a lot going well for New York Excelsior. Mono got hacked, but he was sound barriered, stayed alive at like 87% of his ult, stayed patient, stayed off the point, re-engaged there for the last jump to get the Primal, had Primal when he was down at like 15% health, stays alive, New York get the longer fight there. But there were some great moments for Guangzhou Charge. They, you know, oftentimes were able to push Hotba away to set up for some of Nero's Death Blossoms. They were able to really take charge, no pun intended, of some of these engages with Happy playing for these EMPs. This is going to be one of those fights where there's the break onto Krong's mech, and he instantly goes into the Death Blossom because, you know, there's no mitigation for that ultimate. But this is a pretty unique setup here. We're changing gears a little bit. Huxel, long time no see on the Pharah.
Yeah, this is a major transition now for the side of the NYXL, and this is very all or nothing on point A.
Yeah, it's very risky, you know? I mean, they're throwing a curveball, but attackers have the advantage, right? They can scout this and instantly swap. So Happy could swap to Ashe here, for example, or even the McCree, and Nero can, you know, he can flex a wide variety of heroes. They can even match the Pharah if they really want to. Pharah, Ashe themselves. Let's see what they decide to do once they scope this out. They see it. Composition is going to be swapped here. But the question is to what? Shu goes onto the Ana. That's at least a good start for more anti-air, if you will. Looks like that might be it.
Taking their time. Oxal going to get tagged up as he pokes around the corner, because I think he's you know, as curious as we were as to whether or not there's going to be any swaps. I was expecting there to be more, but instead it will still just be the Sombra and the Reaper here. Nero looking to win that ground battle as Oxal pokes out from above. 41% now going to be built up towards that barrage as they go ahead and look for the push. Pack out onto Hotba, Bionade onto both tanks, but do they have the damage to try to take down either of them? Bionade will go ahead and expire.
There's no
Oxal
follow-up.
asleep on the high ground. You can see that D Matrix coming out from Hotba, looking to protect him, and Chu is just going to get hooked in.
There's no escape here.
Oxal, ooh, yeah, he's got a great back angle now, pushing around the side, looking to weave that damage in, get the barrage online. And Guangzhou Charge in a very rough position.
They'd love to reset if they could, but they can't. So this is just going to be this awkward losing fight where they lose both the fight and time, trying to regroup. That's a good hack.
Oh, Oxal barrage available, hacked out. Bionade will keep him alive for a little bit longer. Anabu's still not going to be there yet for Jonik, but he's building it up rather quickly. Rio makes his way out the back as Hoxel will finish off Chara, and that's going to finally be the reset here for the side of the Guangzhou Charge. As Nero Goes in for the Wraith Walk and will just get effectively self-staggered.
You never want to be, 4 members like that caught in a room where the rest of your team can't rejoin. They can't get line of sight to heal, for example. Chu's not able to get in that position to give you that support, and then Huxel just gets a free barrage, gets kills. There's no winning situation. You could just try to trade up an ults, but you're losing time as well, and now we're down to less than 2 minutes here.
Less than 2 minutes with, close to 5 ults online for the NYXL. Mono straggling behind just a little bit more compared to the rest, but...
I mean, this EMP too, I don't know how effective it's going to be versus Afara. Here comes a Nano.
Nano is used onto Nero. He pushes up, Barrage comes down, finds Rio, but instantly Mono and Amo both going to be eliminated. Nero now trying to escape. Wraps his way out around the corner. Will be able to stay topped up here for the moment as Strong desperately asks for some healing from Shu. Make their way back over towards the point where Hoppa is still going to be defending. Pushes up to contest the high ground, has to drop back down. Sleep Dart, but woken up immediately. Guangzhou Charge still continue to build up their ultimates.
Buying so much time, New York is, though, and they're going to re-engage.
Second tick now on the way. Hotbot taking a lot of damage. The sound barrier going to be used by Chara. He goes in, manages to find Jonak. Happy. Pulling back pretty deep there. Tries to get the deny on the res, but they cannot find it. Namo brings Jonak back into the fray, but he is completely surrounded. So does manage to stay alive for a little bit longer here, does Jonak, but will get taken down in the end, as will Anamo, and the cap will come through on point A. 3 minutes and 40 seconds here for the Guangzhou Charge, who still have a plethora of ultimates, 5 online.
This looks like a very double capture situation, very potential double cap, right, situation for Guangzhou Charge. They have the EMP into the Blossom, right? They have Rio for longevity here on the point. The only thing they don't have is that sound barrier they use, but this is still a good fight for them.
They got the hack onto Hotbot. Nero not going to be going in for that Death Blossom yet. He had to clear the bomb off the point. Primal Rage is out from Rio, however. Does get hacked upon use, but Nene gone. Rio looks to go back through as Chara just steadily building up towards another sound barrier, already about to be at 70%. Weaving those shots in around the pillar, getting the clips here onto Mono. Just build that up rather quickly.
That was not really...
Guangzhou will just go ahead and pull out.
Not a ton of commitment there from Guangzhou Charge, but it's insane that Huxel swaps late and almost matches Happy now on the EMP charge. Speaking of...
Yep, coming in from behind, drops down the EMP, a sleep out onto Huxel as well. And he receives that nano boost from Jonak to try to keep him alive in the fight and try to break down the pushing members of the Guangzhou Charge. Bionade now onto Nero and Chara. It seems like they just try to go for the EMP. It doesn't work out. They immediately exit without any losses.
The Ulta Economy Pendulum will swing back into New York's favor after this fight if Guangzhou can't make something happen here. They've already used their EMP, so it's tough to engage. They're going to go ahead and nano for this start, but look at this position here.
Yep, they all in onto Mono. Sleep Dart now onto Nero. Sound Barrier will keep him safe for the moment, and the Bionade will expire. Guangzhou Charge want this to be the fight. They get the break onto Hoppa's mech. They finish off the Baby Diva. Manage to use that bubble to go ahead and absorb the self-destruct explosion so no one gets taken down. Death Blossom ready from Nero, waiting for his opportunity. Forces Huxel to jump away. Sound Barrier used by Anamo. We'll see how long they can wait this one out. Guangzhou Charge start retreating away from the point where they still have not gotten that first tick. And Chu does get picked off. Push around the corner now looking for Chara, but he's just a bit too fast. But Guangzhou, it looked like that was the time that they wanted to be all in on the point to close it out, and they cannot make it happen. Now, their time has been reduced by 2 minutes.
Yeah, and this is definitely a do-or-die fight, right? This upcoming one where they're going to have 6 ultimates here. New York doesn't have the sound barrier to counteract this really hard engage, but they will have a defensive EMP, especially if Huxel gets away with this free farm. He just got on the back line, did a ton. He's still alive over here on the right side. That's, New York's saving grace here is the longevity they're going to get with this nano on the Mono. There it is. And that EMP they're about to build.
Chuck it out, they get the Sleep Dart, but he's very rudely awoken instantly thereafter. Not exactly what you want if you're the Guangzhou Charge, but with 6 ultimates, can they get this cap on the point with time left in the bank? Happy, forced to jump away. EMP does come through, catches out on the 3-char, nails the sound barrier, but just too much focus fire and Rio will fall. Nero equalizes, trading out Mono in response. Self-destruct. He's online here for Krong, waiting for his opportunity, but Nene denied any damage from the defense matrix. Krong crucially holding on to his ult. And now that the Reaper is gone, might feel a little bit more free to use it. Leaving down, Rio rejoins with the Primal Rage, takes down Hotba. just smacking Jonek around. Helps get the kill onto Anamo. Will be sleeping over towards the spawn doors. Tries to drop the bubble, but Nene on top of him directly does manage to find the kill. Nene teleports now into the corner. Mono rejoins. Antied, but Nano boosted. Will be okay in the Guangzhou Charge.
EMP is ready.
8 seconds remaining. Are not going to be able to get this cap with time in the bank, but now they have to get the cap in general.
Life on the line.
Already going to be demech'd. Char makes his way over to the point. The pilot form Diva going to be taken down. Hoppa punishing him. Leap comes in from Rio. EMP goes out. Manages to find 2. The Bionade on top of the Winston as well means that Rio is a goner. Cannot do anything. Happy trying to build up. Almost has the EMP ready to go. Push back in onto the point. Nero managing to find 1. Gets rid of Hoppa, punishing him after he uses the ult. The Death Blossom will find Anamo. Sound barrier going to be dropped. It's just for Char and for Nero as Rio swaps over onto the Wrecking Ball to try to rejoin in quickly. Mono taken down. Spam shots coming in on the Nene, try to keep him alive. They do manage to find the kill. Now they're looking for a little bit more. 84.5% built up for the side of the Guangzhou Charge. Can they actually make this happen?
Happy's
coming back in. The EMP still going to be ready. Self-destruct out on the point from Krong. Looking for a pick. Will not be able to find one, but will be able to make it back into the mech safely. EMP comes through. Manages to find both the tanks. And Nano Boost used, however, onto Mono. Will keep him alive. Hawksall going to be taken down. Hoppa out of the mech. The Death Blossom comes in from Nero, and he finds 2. That might just be good enough. They managed to finish him off. Nene pushing forward. Gets rid of the opposing Reaper. Shu will strike him down, just holding down that right click. Gets rid of Nene. YXL streaming on the point one after the other, trying to get this defense up, but they cannot make it happen, and it will be a minute apiece. 2 extremely long fights in this map so far. Guangzhou Charge on the defense, draining NYXL's clock down. Now managing to get the cap in OT to give both teams a minute.
I mean, this was a absolutely tenacious push for Guangzhou Charge. The sound barrier from Chara to keep everybody in it, barely surviving long enough for Happy to zone his way back in there, toss out the EMP. Remember, he died as the check mark was being drawn. The animation for the 100% of the ult. He dies right before EMP is ready. And they have to survive for him to go through his entire respawn, run back to the point. Meanwhile, New York has spawn advantage, and Guangzhou just barely, I mean, at the final hour, their tournament life's on the line, they're, spawn disadvantage, even numbers, barely have the ults to pull it off, barely survive. I mean, you just don't see moments like that very often at high-level Overwatch, especially here in Asia, and they made it happen when the pressure was on. That was some fantastic Overwatch, but it just gives them the opportunity to play this one more defense, right? If they get a full hold here, worst case scenario, draw for them. But if New York just runs away with this could be the end still. So it's not over yet. They're not out of the hot water, but at least they keep their chances alive.
Beacon in place.
Hog Zarya
pushing
too.
their way forward. Yep. Hog Zarya. Krong on the Hog and Nero on this Hanzo for the double sniper, just spamming out on the corners. Hawksall going to be swapping over to his tried and true Genji as Nene will be showing us that Widowmaker.
Such a good anti-dive comp what Guangzhou is running though. Hawksall's not going to have time to build a Dragon Blade, at least not in this first, push. They only get really one push, so he's going to have to extend that for a long time if he wants the Blade.
Krong taking a nap there for the moment, does get woken up.
And he just wants one chance, one headshot, could open everything up.
Happy gets the spot there. Onto the Genji, gets the shot. Happy striking down Hawksall. Follows up, finds a second one, gets rid of Nene. Now Jonak going to be gone. The Bionade goes out from Shu, and they might have just actually done this. The res will bring Jonak back into the fray, but it doesn't matter. Nobody can touch the point, and after a series of incredible headshots at the hands of Happy, one of the best Widowmakers in the world, that hold comes through. But like you said, this might not necessarily be a win. If NYXL can do similarly, this could just result in a draw.
But they've bought themselves the 4th map at least.
Yes.
And they
tweeted before coming into this that Temple of Anubis will not be our last map of the 2020 season, and they have now guaranteed that.
Yes, and now, we talked about this not being a great meta for Guangzhou Charge, them not having the full grasp. They go back to double sniper, right? And Nero's an incredible Hanzo player. We've known that since 2019 when he made his Overwatch League debut. Happy, one of the best Widowmaker players. They put it all on the line again. One defense, one shot, all they've got. And Happy, he hits the headshots. He comes up clutch when it matters most. And again, this team just barely stays alive. And for New York Excelsior here, you know, you've got to hope for that draw if you want to still put yourself in best chances, but it's not like they lose their match point or anything like that if they end up getting drawn here, but you want to keep Guangzhou down. But the story here is about Guangzhou surviving. It's not about the draw or the win, really. A win on the board puts them one step closer, but let's see what New York can get done here with this Pharah composition once again. Guangzhou struggled against this on their first push.
Shots coming through, look at a spy check. Happy, he'll jump back instantly, goes for the Widowmaker, says, okay, they have an Ashe, I can beat that. They have a Pharah, I can definitely beat that.
Yeah, it's a great swap for him. He looked great on the defense. I mean, this is one of his best heroes. Go to what's working. You don't have to play the meta always. You can play your hero that works against your opponent. You can counter with your hero pool.
Sometimes comfort's just the way to go. Is he happy? Showing some hesitation about jumping up onto the initial archway. Knows that it's a bit too risky, puts him way out into the open versus Hoxall, so wants to try play a little more sneakily. The shoe just going to be ripped apart. Hoxall finding the kills. Happy now going to be taken down. 17 seconds remaining for the Guangzhou Charge. Somebody's going to have to stay alive. Try to get the touch here onto the point. Rio still taken down. Hoxall doing an incredible job, showing a performance much like we just saw from Happy.
No backdoors.
And with no one tagging in the translocator, you can see it in slow motion. Way too close, but just not there in time. Guangzhou Charge cannot get to the point. We will have a draw. The series goes on.
The series goes on. Sigh of relief out of every Guangzhou Charge fan. They looked alive throughout that entire map, right? I mean, they had a phenomenal defense on B. They had a pretty solid attack once they got through that initial Pharah defense. Followed up for a pretty solid amount of cap on B. Got held again, but then stayed alive and got that overtime cap. Then looked for the full hold with incredible Widow plays from Happy. It feels like this team is playing now, it's almost like they have nothing to lose, and they're playing the heroes they want to play, the heroes they're fantastic at, and kind of breaking the constraints of the meta, right? The chains that kind of extend into what's acceptable to play, right? What your coach has told you to play. And maybe, just maybe, we could have the first signs, maybe, of a potential comeback.
I mean, it was very, very dangerously close there for the Guangzhou Charge, but they keep their heads above the water at least a little bit longer. The scoreline still 2-0. The draw not doing anything for them other than extending the series, giving them a second chance at putting a map win on the board. They still do need to pull off a reverse sweep, so 3 map wins in a row. Havana is going to be the next map pick. We'll see if that is going to be enough for the Guangzhou Charge to finally get on the board, because then from there on out, it is nothing but control rounds where NYXL looked very dominant in that second round. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. When we come back, we're going to have the rest of this series. We'll see if Guangzhou can make this a 2-1 scoreline or if NYXL can finally close it out.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. I have swapped out my contact lenses, and the glasses are back on. I needed my full vision, not my half-prescription contact lenses for the rest of this series because things are heating up. We had a draw on Temple of Anubis, the Guangzhou Charge, not able to get that map win that they so desperately need and want, but they do extend this series, taking it one step further now to Havana.
Yeah, Havana also a map that's really, I think it's the best escort map you can pick for Guangzhou Charge. If you want to play more double sniper, you want to play the style you just found success with, relative success. Obviously, as you mentioned, they didn't take the map, but they showed their first signs of life, right? You want to see long sight lines. You want to see, A, controlled and dominated by Happy's Widow or Ashe. You want to see C controlled the same way on both attack and defense. That's where you're going to find the most success. Gibraltar, another map that plays into this playstyle really well too. But I really like the Havana pick. I think it gives you more flexibility with that Hanzo style that Nero really likes to play. And also, yeah, you can play the Reaper, you can play the Sombra as well, but I don't think we're going to see that for the entirety of this map. There's trade-offs though. If you try to run Sniper on A and get stomped and snowballed, then for B, they might have their own Sombra ultimate coming at you, right? Huxall might be walking into B with an EMP, and you've just made the transition. So there are risks involved with that type of style. So, it's something that I want to see, and I think that Nero and Happy both want to play Sniper here, but it's not necessarily the only choice, and it might be too risky. Again, still tournament life on the line as we set up.
Yeah, and minor adjustment here for the NYXL is just Bianca. Surprisingly to some that we might still have the Nene Huxall duo coming through, but they've been playing extremely well thus far. Don't need to change that up, but seems like New York wants to go in a little bit of a different direction for their off-tank player.
And look at Guangzhou. It's pig's feet, as we like to call it, the Sigma.
As you like to call it.
Well, look, it's starting to catch on. It's starting to catch on, all right? I'm just going to keep saying it until it catches on. But there's a difference here, right, between this composition of what Seoul's running, right? It's the double sniper, which Seoul has run, but not every time. But it's with the Zenyatta here, which is really interesting and unique. It offers really nice protection against EMP, but it also really empowers tank bust. You're expecting Mono to be on the Winston, you put the Discord Orb on that, and then suddenly Storm Arrows make quick work of that dive hero coming through. So it's an interesting take on this Sigma Roadhog, and I like it, especially against how New York have been playing so far. And Huxall once again going to flex over to the Genji. Mixed results with him on this hero versus double sniper so far in the playoffs.
And they're taking a shot. Not going to be able to find a kill, but goes for the pop-up over the top. It'll just be very annoyingly greeted, at least from his perspective, by that experimental barrier. He's Happy. Spots out that shoulder of Jonak, but cannot get the shot. But does follow up for a headshot on the Mono, taking the Winston rather low. But as you can see, Jonak having a field day right now with all of this chip damage coming through. He's almost got a nano boost ready to roll.
Happy just waiting for one mistake out of Anamo here. One peek, one overextension. Mono comes in, discorded immediately.
Got the think they're onto Bianca's Mac. Huxall going to get nano boosted, just farming up those right clicks off of Krong. Does get eliminated in the end, but Nero finds Mono, so a tank for a tank. Sight going to be expiring now for Happy's. Huxall gets the Shurikens in onto Nero, finishing him off. Dragon Blade now to come through to try to guarantee this point A take. Huxall will find Rio for a little bit more, but everybody else going to be gone, and the cart will go ahead and glide in.
We saw a taste of this Huxall Genji versus Shanghai leading up to this series, and there's the revenge from Nero, but this is the first time it feels like the plan came together, right? He gets a fast blade, he farms it off of some deflection onto Krong and also just shooting at, his big, hitbox, essentially. Just going to get the farm that blade up, and then the blade execution is great. Gets that headshot kill, left click, before the blade is ready, and everything goes perfectly.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Well, he kind of dropped down to a decent position, honestly. They have to come way up over the top.
Yeah, he's all right.
See that pursuit there?
And he's not.
No, he messed up the grapple. And yeah, it didn't go as far as he wanted to, so he got caught up in the Dragon Strike. So a nice little pick off there.
This is going to be the hardest part of the map, arguably, for this double sniper comp. I mean, Nero gets, a little bit of a pass here on the Hanzo because the choke points are going to work well for his storm arrows, and he can just chip away at people as they do come out of choke points. But for Happy, it's going to be the hard part, right? You know, because he can't get great sightlines. He's always under threat by Haksal. And obviously Mono and Bianca if he steps too far away from his tank line, which essentially peels and keeps him alive.
Well, they spot Krong around the back. Bionade goes out onto 3 members of the Guangzhou Charge, and Chu does get eliminated before he can use the Transcendence there. Krong on as well, so 2 for 1 as Happy tries to trade things back, getting the headshot onto Jonak. Dive up over the top from Mono's, looking to put the pressure on the enemy Widowmaker, which it will, forces him out of the room, but the rest of the team is waiting, so the rest of the NYXL have to pull back over towards the cart, where they're still, making a good amount of distance right now in a pretty good amount of time.
Happy ults here, but even though he can see where everybody is, doesn't mean he can get line of sight if he can't actually find a window to shoot through. Here we go, Nanoblade.
Nanoboost is out. Haksal coming around the backside, looking for a target, is just going to get shoved all the way into the back, but manages to find Happy in the end. He's getting out-pressured on the other side, the other exit of the distillery here. Dive in, comes through onto Shu. They finish him off. Krong solo on the cart, tries to extend this defense, but cannot make it happen. So it's going to be 4 minutes and 25 seconds now on the clock for NYXL for the final stretch of Havana as the gate does open.
Well, I mean, consolation prize here for Guangzhou is at least their composition fares really comfortably here. Haksal is going to have a lot harder of a time getting to Krong to farm a blade. He's halfway there, obviously, after an insane blade that we just watched. But it's not going to be as easy to make that happen. Nero gets a pick onto Nene, and that tells the story, right? I mean, you have sightlines controlled here, you have full vision, and New York really struggle to challenge that. And even Haksal getting in there, I mean, yeah, he can, at range, flick those shurikens out as he is now. But even blading is so difficult when you've got such good coverage right now as the Charge does.
Well, that's exactly what Guangzhou wants to see. Very happy. Also going to be a lot of peeled here as Mono just giving a nice little wave.
He knows that he's dead. Like, there's like, oh, you want to come all the way out here as Winston versus Discord Orb, you know, Storm Arrows coming through. I mean, you're not going to survive very long. So it's a reset. He has the Primal. He did farm that up from that last push, and this is going to be basically everything but a nano boost for New York for this engage, but it's closing that distance that's giving Haksal so much pause. He keeps getting headshot on the approach. Okay, that's a good start.
That's going to be the big opening for him. Yeah, Nene finds a headshot on the Happy. Not seeing a res come out yet, as Haksal will get shoved back by the Dragon Strike. Char going to go in with the Valkyrie. Happy just going to be naturally rezzing. Mono tries to displace the tanks here in the front line. Graviton Surge going to be used by Rio, but it's a big whiff with such a massive displacement there from the Primal range that just kind of yeeted that out and didn't hit anybody with the grab. That being said, Mono still does get taken down, but Namo is quick on the res to bring him back into the fight. Dragon Blade coming through. Transcendence is out, but Char still so squishy. Cleared in with the Bionade from Jonak. Thanks for 2 targets, now 3 gone to the Dragon Blade. Deflection out, Haxa will find a 4th. As Char desperately swaps now over onto the Lucio to get the tag on the cart.
Yeah, desperate swap for Nero as well. Rio, Krong, everybody's just trying to delay here. They're trying to burn that time. They're not going to get much else. Nene swapping too to try to get the hacks to prevent
Rio
it.
sleeping.
Just a time buy here.
Start there onto the Wrecking Ball. Yeah, he's going to come back in. Self-destruct tossed out from Bianca. Goes up over the top, pushes Krong away from the cart, knocks him out of that mech. Now Chara going to be gone as well from Jonak. Bionade lobbed in. Keeps his team topped up. Haksal with a sliver of HP will get rolled over as Rio rejoins into the fray, but just doesn't have the health for it. The shield that he popped, there was not enough enemy members around to get a big shield, and they just chew through that one. A decent little time by here by the Guangzhou Charge. Obviously, when it started, that final stretch, there was a lot more time for the NYXL to try to finish Havana, but in recent times, even just finishing Havana has been proven to be pretty difficult.
This is disastrous. You're not okay with this in any shape or form. There's no, well, at least I got him down to sub 2 minutes. There's no positive spin on this for Guangzhou Charge, unfortunately. You've got to forget your failed defense. It was a good attempt, and it lasted very long on C. They had a great start, with the long sight lines. York Excelsior, had to wait until they really had all their ults up for that really big coordinated push before they could really start to crack the defense. But you've got to forget that. You've got to throw that out of your mind, and you've got to focus on basically setting a record here. You've got to have the best attack of Havana in recent memory. You've got to have this incredible push. You have to shake things up. People need to remember this push. That's the mindset you're going to have when you come into this, because you're not thinking, well, at least we got him pretty low. Like, maybe we can have a good defense here. 2 minutes is an insane amount of time for Havana, as you mentioned. So, Never going to be happy with that one. New York going for the standard Winston defense here with Nene and Haksal playing the Reaper Sombra. Everything as meta as can be. I don't know if this Doomfist is real. It might just be a, I was going to say a swap as the gates open. Didn't really make sense otherwise.
Ooh. One nice direct hit there on the Haksal. Forces him to translocate away from the cart. Shots coming down from above. Just almost shred Anamo, and with the help of the Discord Orb tossed in from Shu, Happy will find the kill. Now gets the follow-up onto Nene. For his next target. Gets the dink on Mono as he leaps out. Happy's aim is just absolutely absurd. Jonak, on the other hand, throws out a damage orb and just kind of randomly happens to get a kill onto Shu, but it doesn't matter. The Guangzhou Charge have broken through. They get the res. Yeah. And
this is what we've been
see
waiting
how quickly
for.
they can take this point A.
This is what we've been waiting for, right? I mean, these are two of the best heroes, you know, in the terms of the pool for Nero and Happy. Talked about on Anubis, you know, I thought we might see it a little bit. But this is an insane duo, you know, when they given these heroes. They have Krong on the Roadhog for some anti-dive here as well. And this is extremely comfortable for Guangzhou Charge. And this is the, you know, the record pace they need.
The jump here into the back line onto Shu to try to take him down, but Haksal just couldn't get the shots moving in there in time. Nene eliminated by Nero, who continues to push forward, gets the direct shot there on the Jonak. T-Matrix comes out to try to protect the rest of the squad, but it doesn't matter. Haksal is already finished off. Now Mono gone. Nero, this guy's aim with the Pharah is just out of this world. This is exactly what we wanted to see.
It's been so good all day, and it's been so good his whole career. I mean, again, like I said earlier, when we started this off on Lijiang, why barrage with this character when you could just hit everything you need? This is just going to be a preemptive minefield to prevent the encroach here of the NYXL players. You can see they can't really touch comfortably.
Bianca had to push into that one. Happy just sitting on the high ground here. 100 HP, down to half, doesn't really mind. Knows that there's not really anyone at all on the side of the NYXL that can threaten him in that position.
That was really nicely played. It was a risky play, but I like it a lot from Rio. It's like a speed run. I'm going to do the delay skip glitch where I put mines there, so when they try to touch the cart, they can't get on there. And it was, I mean, they're really going for a speed run here, and that's what they need. They absolutely need to have an insane pace. Now they're going to control this choke point here with Nero on the Pharah. Man, getting an EMP off is so difficult when you have to go through these chokes. And then Shu has the Transcendence ready too on top of it all.
Yep. There's no Jonak Ana this time around, so we'll not be able to just toss out that ante. Haksal, hide behind the tree. They'll never expect it.
Oh, he revealed himself. That's big.
He does reveal himself, takes a lot of damage into the dynamite, comes out, Happy finds the kill. Nero, in the meantime, picks Bianca out of the mech.
This is looking fantastic for Guangzhou.
Yeah, this is catastrophic now for the NYXL. Nene eliminated by Krong. As the cart will continue to advance, it's going to be so much time, near 5 minutes here for the Guangzhou Charge in the time bank for the final stretch, unless NYXL can get a last-second contest. But Jonak, he goes for it. Makes his way in onto the point, gets taken down instantly by Krong. Great hook follow-up combo to come through. Mono in the back trying to get the kill here onto Shu. Does force out that Transcendence. He will get finished off in the end. Nero looking for the drop down. Cannot get that kill. The Bob just going to be eliminated so far. That's all that NYXL have been able to get for themselves, as Nero will yet again lob that rocket in to finish off maybe even. EMP still committed to the fight. Finds Nero, finds Chara. The ladder will fall, but the cart is uncontested, and it's 4 minutes 18 seconds now in the timing for the Guangzhou Charge.
Yeah, this is when you start pulling your pocket watches out and looking at the time, and you know, eyebrows are raised, and you're starting to think, okay, like, can Guangzhou do this? Like, is this the pace? Is this the time where they can actually match New York Excelsior? And the answer is definitely, it's definitely possible. It's realistic to expect that they could actually match it if they continue at this pace. Then he swaps to Widowmaker here because it's obviously great for C, but it's great for helping shut down Nero's Pharah. Nero not even wanting to let him get out of spawn before he puts the pressure on. It goes both ways. It's not just the Widow counters the Pharah, but the Pharah can actually put the pressure on the Widow as well. Great play by Nero here to get them around this corner.
Yep. Rio as well, finishing off Mono. See the poke out there. He's playing around this tower. Nene looking for the shot. Can't quite line it up. Yeah, now looks for Happy. Just doesn't get the hit that he desperately needs.
Even the sleep dart's coming out here to try to shut this guy down, but Nero is on fire. He will not be stopped. It's actually taking the long way around.
Now on the hunt, looking for Anamo. Pokes up over the top. He's got to be really careful at managing his fuel now, but you can see just how expert he is at this. Pushes his way back over to the front with a concussive blast. Rockets now coming down from above. Hawksaw going to be eliminated, but not before Krong does get taken down. They get the D-Mech onto the Baby Diva here, or onto Bianca rather, and get the finishing blow. Krong is rezzed back in. A bit of opportunity for this barrage, but just hasn't pulled the trigger on it yet. Bubble comes down. Mono got nowhere to go. There you go. Pops him with that barrage, pokes back around the corner, and continues to apply pressure. You can see Nene taking damage off screen just by looking at his HP bar.
Yeah, you can see it. Look at Happy just push through, no fear. They're in really nice position here. The minefield out preemptively again for Rio. They're pushed into a corner.
Nano boost onto Nero. He's pushing in. He's on the hunt. A couple tags come through from Jonak. The Bionade will connect onto Nero and Chara, but he's still going to stay alive. 2 minutes and 23 seconds now here for the Guangzhou Charge. Nero flicking his mouse, trying to redirect his head, making sure that he cannot have that lineup come through from Nene to get the kill. So far, it's working wonderfully. Whole hog out from Krong to push everybody away from the card as they try to roll this one in. And they will be able to do so here. 2 minutes and 5 seconds, so barely beating the NYXL. They do manage to have a very successful push on Havana.
Well, you know, now you're wondering, like, is the sky the limit here in terms of the defense for Guangzhou Charge if they run this composition, right? If they run the Pharah here instead of double sniper? New York seemed to really struggle to shut that down. I mean, again, it's not as simple as, okay, Widow counters Pharah, Diva counters Pharah, so, you know, and New York should just swap heroes and then it's just easy, it's free, you know? Like, how long can Nero play this? That's not as simple as it is, especially because Pharah can put the pressure on the Widow, which means the Widow's not shooting at the tanks anymore. The Widow's struggling to stay alive out of spawn while dealing with the Pharah, which means the tanks push up and then suddenly you're losing the tank battle as New York. You know, your supports are under fire, Jonak's not safe anymore, and everything just starts to fall apart. You know, something that Shanghai popularized last year and really exploded with was the Widow Pharah, right? And that's why they ended up taking a Stage 3 title, most would argue. Ding and DM, that duo was so insanely powerful. You know, you could see glimpses of that and how Guangzhou's playing. They are going to go back to the double sniper, though. Not going to run the defensive Pharah. Too much risk involved, too much variance with that style. They want to go back to something a little bit more safe here. And New York staying with their tried and true Nene on the Widow rather than the Ashe, though, to start things out.
Hawksaw just going to be waiting. So you said it's the double sniper again. Mono already getting tagged up. Hawksaw will swap over onto that Genji. Trying to get in position to dive in onto these snipers. Can start coming through. Happy going to be repositioning. Gets the dink onto Bianca's mech. As Jonik again is just going to be absorbing and reveling in all of that healing he gets to do.
I mean, it's a slow...
Nene now swaps.
It's a slow push here, but the positioning is good for New York. You know, they're just slowly wrapping around this corner while avoiding sight lines. Not even having to commit Hawksaw in until the last possible second. He knows he can get a ton of charge off of Krong once he gets that chance.
Oh! Mono almost eliminated. Does get kept alive.
Jonak, expert healing.
Just follows up. Oh my god. Another dink. Hawksaw taken down. You see the translocate out for the shot. The Namo. Again, you can see everybody just spinning as much as possible to try to avoid getting headshot by Happy.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the way the style has to be played. Hawksaw commits in, right? And it looks like his deflect is just a second too late. Krong takes him out, and then everything else falls apart. New York has to retreat back, you know. Bianca with a nice pick.
Yeah, Rio eliminated, and that's something you have to be very concerned about playing it against Sombra. Nano boost going to be used. Mono going into the back line, looking to take down Nero. There's just not enough heal for him, but Nero, in his dying breath, threw out that Dragon Strike and managed to finish off Hawksaw. Krong hacked, antied out, and then he does manage to find the kill, and Char already burns the res, bringing Nero back into the fray. So let's see if he can pop off to try to make this defense successful. Mono goes up top. Somebody's going to have to touch. Rio rolls back through. Minefield almost online for him as Happy looks for a kill. Sees the deflection being used by Hawksaw. Gets the body shot, but can't line it up on the head yet. Body tag there onto Anamo as well, pressuring them out as best as he can. Hawksaw dives in, finds Chara, getting the kill. Transcendence now rolling from Shu as Hawksaw gets in on top of Happy, finishing him off with the right clicks. Now looks to farm onto Krong. We'd love to hold on to this Dragon Blade, and with the hack coming in, should be able to do so. Krong cannot take a breather, cannot heal himself, and NYXL will be able to push forward into point
and they get the res. Bianca's back in the mech. Nene's got EMP, Hawksaw's got Blade, and they're going to have a nano boost. Guangzhou Charge, they want to stop this as soon as possible. Everybody would, right? Like to minimize the distance as much as possible. But they actually have to respect these ultimates. They have to defend probably until B. They really cannot contest early. They're just going to feed over free push for the NYXL. They have to play passively. Nene looking for his opportunity to take the first fight with a backside EMP is detected for just a moment.
Well, is spotted. Hadn't been seen yet by Happy. He didn't turn around with that infrasight rolling.
Look at Rio just contesting, just alone, just slowing it down.
Moving in as he can. Sleep Dart does not connect onto Hoxel. Manages to find Shu with the blade. Mono taking down Nero way in the back line as Happy is going to be suffering the same exact fate. Mono cleaves them down. Rio tries to come to the rescue, but he just cannot do enough. It's looking like NYXL should be able to get themselves a point B push now here on Havana.
There's just no way they could stop it anymore, and Nene, you know, holds this EMP. It's a nice fight for NYXL. They punished Rio. They were able to take control of the cart when he decided to delay. And, you know, now, you know, again, this is the best part for Guangzhou with double sniper. But with EMP ready and no available counter, I mean, this is a scary moment, you know, where suddenly this map might slip through your fingers. Your playoff life, your tournament life, your whole 2020 might just slip through.
Oh, that's a good start. The Dragon Strike now going to be tossed out over onto the cart. They can clear that for long enough that OT bar will plummet. EMP is used, finds 4 members on the side of the Guangzhou Charge, but no one eliminated here.
Very bad EMP, very
still,
mistimed.
though, the cart is contested. Rio going to be taken down. Bianca knocked out of the mech, looks for the Baby Diva, misses the first shot, misses the second. For a little bit more, because they have to stay on that card. Minefield comes in to play. Happy follows up on the back of that explosion, gets the kill onto Bianca. Now Anamo going to be gone. No immortality field is there. Klong receives a nano boost out from Shu, as they will finally be able to clear the cart and stop NYXL's push. But given that they ran into overtime at point A, for how far that they went to make it all the way through to the final stretch, this is a very daunting task for the Guangzhou Charge because they did not have that significant of a time advantage.
I mean, this was a very, very similar time to what we saw from Guangzhou do on their own attack. Question marks across all the silhouettes of the heroes here for Guangzhou Charge in the top right. The question is, do we see Nero on that Pharah? Will New York Excelsior adapt, right? Attackers get the advantage. And take a look at a replay here of Happy at this choke. Does take out Bianca, and then I think he gets the kill here onto the Batiste, yeah.
Yep.
But this is the moment where, you know, you've got to wonder as the defenders, you know, what are we up against? This is a scary moment for New York where you think, okay, is it the Pharah blind? Do we assume that? Or, you know, do we just play standard? I mean, the Widowmaker, struggling to get the words out of my mouth on that one, the Widowmaker with the Sombra, I think is the best compromise here for New York because you have the ability to shut the Pharah down. And you have the ability to play standard, play that poke war, the sniper war. You know Guangzhou, they don't have Eileen. They're not going to put Nero on Genji. He's played it before, but that's not going to happen. You're not afraid of that. It's a kind of catch-all defense here for New York Excelsior. But just because they have the right heroes doesn't mean the execution is going to be perfect. And Nero is so on point tonight with this Pharah. Let's see how much he can get done.
There's to see if Happy will be swapping off of the Hanzo here. Shots coming down, Nene looking for the finish, but again, just can't quite line it up. Will tag repositions over to the side. Tagged again from Shu. Now will be very much forced out, but Shu got him as he tried to grapple to the side. There's no mercy on the side of the NYXL, so they cannot bring him back into the fray. He's going to have to be running back in. Mono will fall, the front line crumbling here for the side. The NYXL, Bianca popped out, finished off, and like you say, very great start for the Guangzhou Charge.
It feels like he's always behind NYXL, right? He's behind Bianca. Like, where's the D-Matrix that's facing in towards the rest of Guangzhou as if, you know, New York is going to dive through, right? They're running a dive-esque composition. They even swapped Nene onto the Tracer now, and so Bianca has to dive in with the team, but if the Hero's on the other side, that means no D-Matrix, that means no damage mitigation, that means tons of AoE just chipping in, as you can see here. I mean, look, again,
and instantly the supports are gone. Jonek and Anamo both absolutely obliterated on the re-entry. Bianca eliminated as well, and that's point A. There's no way. Oxel, he does have an EMP online, but I don't think that they can recommit here. They have to just fight inside, use the EMP there, and then try to win and stop the cart.
You have a win condition in stopping the cart, right? So why contest here?
Not worth going for. They still keep going for it. Let's see if NYXL can make me look like a fool. Krong already going to be gone.
If you win
Happy
it,
taken down by Nene. Finds one. Rio does get mono, but they still play the card!
It might not matter, though.
They
it
allow
might
the
not
card to
matter.
get pushed through. It might not. We'll have to see. Rio is still alive. The minefield has taken down 2. Both supports, I do believe, falling to that. Now Bianca loses out on the mech. There's still 10 seconds left for the rest of the Guangzhou Charge to get reset and come back in.
I think New York might have overstepped here. I think they might have overextended here. They could have tried to play that same team fight either in the middle of B, where they had high ground advantage, or on the contest going into C, where they had those choke points controlled. They can still wait and play for that now. It's not all over here for this map. Guangzhou Charge can't make any mistakes.
Nero's sleeping. They get a sleep dart onto him. Can they get the collapse? The answer is going to be yes. Anamo pushing forward, manages to find that kill. Chara, can he get a res off? I'm going to go ahead and venture a guess and say no. Pulse bomb out from Nene. The res does come through after enough space is created, but Hoxel leaps up over the top and hacks all 4 of the remaining members of the side of the Guangzhou Charge. Krong, however, does manage to strike back, finds 1 kill, punishing the Sombra.
Bianca.
But Krong, now Chara are all eliminated. Rio rejoins, drops in the minefield, is trying desperately to knock some of the members of the NYXL into these mines, but they get the sound barrier shielding from Anamo, and they cannot continue the push. The New York Excelsior will win on Havana. They will shut down the rest of the season. The hopes of continuing in the playoffs that the Guangzhou Charge were holding on to. A 3-0 technically in the end here. After you take that draw into consideration for the NYXL, they will be advancing into our losers bracket finals.
You can see the emotion on the faces of the Charge players. Everyone's a little bit disappointed, but I don't think you can really feel too bad about what was perhaps one of the most exciting and most emotional. Like, for me, that whole time I was on the edge, like, is this possible? Like, is this doable? Are we going to see David beat Goliath, basically, in this situation of a 3-0 that I think I've cast in Overwatch? Like, that was one of the closest, one of the tensest 3-0s where, I mean, anything could have happened if slight circumstances were different. But at the end of the day, New York was the stronger team. They win it out. They're advancing to play against the loser of Shanghai versus Seoul, which we do have coming up next. But what a season for Guangzhou Charge. They defied expectations. They won a tournament, right? And they ended up getting dealt a bad hand in terms of the meta, to be honest, here in the playoffs. But they still put up a good fight till the end.
Yeah. I like the shift, just going to things that were full comfort for them. That's where they looked really, really great. Happy on the Widowmaker, especially at the end there on Temple of Anubis. Very much enabling them to get that full hold against the NYXL in the overtime and force the draw. Clutch moments like that, they really made this series absolutely special. But unfortunately for the Guangzhou Charge, that is the end of the road. NYXL, like you said, will be playing against the loser of our next series, which is Shanghai Dragons versus the Seoul Dynasty. And either way you slice it, it's a very daunting opponent on the horizon for New York. They'll have a little bit of time, obviously, to figure out who their opponent's going to be and then square off against them tomorrow. But let's go ahead and celebrate one of our players, our player of the match, in fact, on the side of the NYXL. Presented by Xfinity, it is going to be Anamo as supports continue to just go ahead and rake in these wins.
Anamo not only had, incredible sound barriers to shut down Happy, which was a big name, a big moment or game changer. My excitement levels are still really high. Several big game changers for him in terms of the sound barriers, but he also got a lot of solo kills on the backline. Killed Shu several times, was really able to put off a ton of damage, got some environmental kills across the board, and we chose this player of the match actually during the game break. It was a while ago, and there's a lot of people might be thinking, well, what about Mono? He played incredibly well. There's a lot you could have chosen, honestly, for NYXL. Nene's return, he played really well too, but I think Anamo was just so consistent throughout this series, and even the 2 maps we saw after we kind of tossed our vote in. It's not always up to us, but this is who we voted for when we had a chance to vote. We looked like it was going to be a 3-0 on the 3rd map. I think Anamo showcased what a high-level Lucio can really do, what a high-level Lucio is capable of in a meta where EMPs are hitting non-stop. His Mercy, pretty fantastic as well.
Yeah, it was just clean across the board, Lee Jae-gon-esque, as we could say, I guess, for Anamo, just constantly shutting down those EMPs that were coming through from the Guangzhou Charge, not really ever allowing them to capitalize on the EMP targets, no matter how many they actually managed to hack. They just couldn't quite get him. So very elusive, and in my opinion, a very well-deserved victory for Anamo. But guys, that's Series 1 out of the way. Next up is the big one, the marquee
This is
matchup, the
it.
one that you guys have been waiting for. This is the Shanghai Dragons going up against the Seoul Dynasty. Winner of this series will move forward and lock in their spot in the top 4 teams globally in the league. Both these teams are going to be fighting. They've got nothing to lose, which they could have everything to lose in this set. They're going to be fighting tooth and nail to try to get their victory here today. When we come back, we're going to see who is going to be advancing and who is going to be going up against NYXL tomorrow. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back with that series in just a few minutes.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
결용과 안쪽에 들어갔죠. 정확히. 자, 하나 가져왔어요. 일리시. 이러면 들어갔어. 하나 더.
对面的查打比斗神这一次没有胜保住 Ferris 在小房间里面把对面的阵型彻底撕成两半。
빨리 보여줘야 돼요. 보여줘야 돼요. 화낼 거예요. 예, 이거 타이밍입니다. 이거 타이밍. 이거 대충 됐다. 요거구나. 빨리 더, 빨리 나. 야.
带掉了弗莱塔登自己正面劣势太大了，这伤害还是哇，直接给了重点朋友不给任何的机会，这一波要赶尽杀绝，
完全不给对方一点。
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time here. The big match is upon us. One of these two teams is going to be moving forward into the top 4 teams in the Overwatch League. Globally, it's either the Shanghai Dragons or the Seoul Dynasty, who have been on a very late end of the season tear.
Yeah, I mean, Seoul Dynasty are the Washington Justice of Asia. If you talk about teams that have succeeded in this new playoff meta, teams that have found their footing, teams that have, found the compositions that work for them really well, right? I mean, this is a big win meta-wise for Seoul. They seem to be the team that is playing the most differently from the rest of Asia and executing their comps, at least in terms of results, the most successfully. 6-0 so far, but their biggest opponent, their biggest test so far since the playoffs started is Shanghai Dragons.
It is, and Shanghai Dragons, throughout the duration of the 2020 season have looked like they are the best team in the world. It wasn't always that way, though, Wolf. Let's go ahead and take a trip down memory lane and look at the evolution of the Shanghai Dragons.
It is finally time. We are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Shanghai Dragons.
Shanghai had to make the difference here, but it seems it's going to be a little bit too much a pipe dream, perhaps. Fearless has to throw himself on the point, but the Florida Mayhem stand tall against the odds. And the Shanghai Dragons, beloved Dragons, today is not your day, but when it is, it will be sweet.
Be the first tick, gonna be gained.
You can feel it.
They're gonna get it.
There you go.
Just a couple more percent to go. Let them have it, Boston. Axiom, top of the primal range, but it does not matter. History has been made. The Shanghai Dragons, on the 43rd attempt out, managed to pick up their first match victory.
The fans never thought they'd see this day. It took 43 matches. Feels like a really emotional moment here. We got to give the crowd their moment. They've waited a long time for this.
Reverse sweep, not gonna happen. The Shanghai Dragons will be your stage 3 champions. They deny it away from the San Francisco Shock.
The fans in the studio overwhelmed with what is the truth here. The Shanghai Dragons are stage 3 champions. Last year, no one could have seen this future, but the Shanghai Dragons are the best team in the world today.
2018년도 상하이 드래곤즈를 생각했을 때 꿈에도 생각 못했던 상황이고요. 지금이 좋은 성적을 거두면서 이렇게 이제 풀업을 앞당기고 어떻게 그렇게까지 됐나 정말 신기해하면서도 마냥 너무 기쁜 것 같습니다.
2018년도 상하이 드래곤즈와 2020년도 상하이 드래곤즈가 이렇게 바뀌게 된 게 약간 좀 당연하다라고 생각하고 있습니다. 왜냐하면 로스터도 확 바뀌었고 같은 팀이지만 안에 있는 내용이 다 다르기 때문에 당연하다고 생각합니다.
이제 2019년에는 제가 이제 건강상의 문제가 있었어가지고 잠시 이제 상하이 드래곤즈 아카데미 팀 CC에 내려가서 중국 컨텐더스를 계속 하다가 정말 이제 열심히 해서 리그에 오고 싶었던 이유는 상하이 시즌 1 때 제가 아직 오버워치 리그에서 한 번도 이겨본 적이 없었어가지고 정말 이기고 싶은 마음이 너무 컸었어요. 그래가지고 요번에 이제 리그에 와가지고 정말 좋은 성적을 거두고 있어서 진짜 너무너무 행복합니다.
Well, you and I, Wolf, might not have been there in 2018 when things got off to a rocky start for the Shanghai Dragons, but we've been there every step of the way since then, bringing you guys their first win, their first stage victory, and now potentially them being the first team to move forward into that top 4 here from the Asia side of things.
Yeah. I mean, you and I cast Lips first games in 2018 before that, but everyone else in this roster comes from different backgrounds, different places, and this is a team that's really come together over the last 2 years. We've seen returns of legends like Fearless. We have seen Void moved into the roster. You know, I mean, this team had Guangzhou as part of their, big shot calling lineup, right? One of the huge parts of their roster last year. They lost him, and he ends up being replaced by their old main tank in Fearless. I mean, the storyline doesn't get much cooler than 0-40, team. Fearless is on the roster, winless. He goes back to China, plays on Team CC. The returns as the leader of the new Shanghai Dragons. They're the #1 seed, best team in Asia, and they are 3 wins away from going to that top 4 globally. Like you've been talking about, that's what you want. That's the most important part. I've been touting Shanghai as being the best team in the world, I think, based on what we've seen so far. But will they be meta-proof here? Because the biggest test is Seoul Dynasty right now. Seoul Dynasty looking to be the most unique team right now in terms of how they're playing. Their play style is very different. They're the ones who popularized the Roadhog Sigma, where a lot of other teams are running Roadhog Zarya, for example. This is their starting 6. Their lineup here, exactly as you'd expect. Prophet and Fitz on the DPS lineup. Marvel coming in once again as the flex tank, you could say, but Gesture has been playing the Roadhog. So we'll see, Marvel on his best hero, Sigma, you have to imagine, for a lot of this series, and Gesture on that Roadhog. Might not start that way on Control. We might see the Winston-style play there and then move into it as the series goes deeper, but this is it. This is Seoul Dynasty's biggest test yet, right? This is the closest they've been to a top 4 finish. This is the closest they've ever been to a great finish in the Overwatch League. Even winning this series alone and going to that top 4 would be a huge win for them. I mean, they're not going to stop there if they take it, but no one expected them to go this far with their inconsistent results all season. But this is the meta they have solved. And will Shanghai Dragons be the first team to put an end to it? They are 6-0 in playoffs currently.
Yeah, it's a nice little map streak that the Shanghai Dragons have going for them right now, and if they could continue that, come out on the other side of this series, 9-0 versus the Shanghai Dragons, I think that Dynasty fans' heads might just explode. I don't think that anybody would be able to comprehend it, because it's been such a wild ride for the Seoul Dynasty. They make it into the finals versus the Melee versus this team versus the Shanghai Dragons. Get taken down. After a very strong start of that series, it all falls apart for them versus Shanghai. And then there was a lot of instability after that. This patch, this playoff run right now is their biggest shot at redemption for an otherwise lackluster 2020, much like people would describe, I would say, the first 2 years of this organization. Is this the year where Seoul Dynasty makes that deep run and makes it all the way into a grand final?
I mean, that is the question. We've had a lot of teams in Korea over the years in esports that have had popular players that have been famous. Everyone's excited for them, right? One of the big memes is don't get excited for KT, right? KT Rolster in Korea for League of Legends. And Seoul Dynasty feels like it's kind of fallen into the same sort of vein. I mean, you talk about this all the time with me off cast. It just feels like every time you get excited for Seoul Dynasty, every time it looks like this is their season, this is their stage last year. Remember when they beat New York in that huge upset win? They always disappoint you. But so far in this playoff, 6-0, their biggest test yet. Can they keep the ball rolling? No pun intended, as Marvel's here on the wrecking ball. We're here to find out. Prophet once again on the Pharah. And right now, Shanghai Dragons do not have the proper composition to knock this Pharah out of the sky. Fitz swaps over to Sombra, and we'll see if Shanghai can outlast this.
See how they want to play around it. We saw Shanghai Dragons being a bit reserved to try and run the Roadhog themselves in their last series. Eventually didn't commit to it. It looked rather good, but Gesture is going to be the one who's able to strike first. Takes on Lee J. Gone. Flooded does punish him for that, but now Lip is out of the fight. Going to be allowing for Fitz to get a nice little lead here towards that EMP charge. Izayaki getting his hands dirty, goes in, finds Creative, but Prophet drops down on the low ground, punishing the enemy Moira, and Fearless will fall as well. And Seoul Dynasty go ahead and look to close out this first cap on the point on Sanctuary.
And look at Lip's charge versus a Roadhog here. This is actually going to be a pretty low charge. This is not what you expect to see. You know, when your Sombra has a huge ult battery on the other side, he's just been so zoned out, he's been able to do so little here that, I mean, in terms of their biggest engage tool, they're so far away from that EMP, and look at Prophet just controlling everything right now.
Yeah, huge pile driver there on the members of the Shanghai Dragons as they try to advance forward. Just 25% built up right there. The Bionade connects in on the 3 members on the side of the Shanghai Dragons. Izayaki trying to keep everybody alive. Prophet will still fall, Lip finding that kill. They don't get the capitalization on the other Biode members here. Minefield from Marvel, however, will find Lee J gone. The point still has not been cleared enough for the Shanghai Dragons to get this flip into their favor. Void rejoins with the rest of the squad, pulling his way back, just chipping away at Marvel, who's currently hacked out, receives a nano boost. Now that the hack is expiring, rolls back through to further disrupt the members of the Shanghai Dragons, but Void manages to find 3 with a self-destruct. And Wolf, it just feels like we don't see those kind of ults anymore.
We certainly don't.
But Void comes up with it, and that's the turning point in the fight. The flip finally comes through, 60% on the board for the Seoul Dynasty.
You know, Shanghai Dragons last year was the core of the new Panthera, Guangzhou Panthera, of course, back in Contenders Korea. Void's part of that older roster, and that's where we used to see these big triple kills coming out. The EMP actually comes onto the Shanghai Dragons during this, and yet still, that's the connection on their side. You know, a temporary flip coming through as the back cap forces Shanghai Dragons to respawn. Prophet has a nice angle here. Big hack onto Fearless.
Yep. That pull in onto Lip. Gesture finds that pick off. Because he can't use the EMP here in the fight. Barrage going to be dropped in straight on top of the Skull of Void. Knocks him out of the mech, finishes off the pilot form. Looks for Fleta as well, but the Wraith Walk did keep him safe. Just trying to push everybody away from the point. Minefield comes out. Marvel gets Izayaki. Push up over the top. Prophet takes down Fleta. And the Shanghai Dragons have all these ultimates, but they're just not being given an opportunity to use them.
And that
Fitz takes down Lee J gone, and ladies and gentlemen, we can now confirm it. Prophet has hit 10,000 career eliminations.
Yep, 10,000 Overwatch League eliminations confirmed on that kill onto Fearless. That's his 10,000th. He's the first player in 3 years of the Overwatch League to do so. He's been relevant all 3 years. Most people say if there's a greatest player of all time, most people say, well, there might not be, but we're pointing fingers to Prophet if there is one. Lip's got EMP here to try to flip this point back.
Well, absolutely huge. The icing on the top, on the cake here for Prophet would be if they could go ahead and win out this round. Shanghai Dragons trying to fight back as Lip did find Marvel just moments ago. Fleta pushing up into the face of Gesture, tries to take him down. Until he finds enough space to bring Marvel back into the fight, so the chaotic nature of the Seoul Dynasty will just go ahead and continue. And the Shanghai Dragons are just showing a lot of issues in trying to deal with it. Hack out onto Fearless as he dives into the bag, the self-destruct. Not going to be able to find the Sombra here. So Fitz is still around, still has his EMP. Gets the hack now onto Void. Bionade will expire, so he can stay alive for a little bit longer. DJ Gon still holding on to this sound barrier. He's going to have to pull the trigger on that in this fight if they want to get the flip in all likelihood. It's a boop away, but actually they cannot play up onto the point.
Just barely off the edge was Lee J
They get the knock away, they peel back.
Yeah, insanely close there. The minefield's out, you know, he's afraid of getting clipped by that as it's in animation. And that's a scary moment, but you know, that's almost inexcusable when everybody's so close there that you don't have a touch, you've got the sound barrier, just a small mistake there ends up costing them big. And you've got to have an answer to Prophet's Pharah. You can't just let this run wide open. You can't just leave this alone. And, you know, Lip, he's an incredible McCree player, but that puts Fleta on the Sombra. You can't run Sombraless right now. You have to have EMP. It's one of the most impactful ultimates across basically every meta since Sombra has been released. And it's a hero pool problem here against the Pharah, and it feels like Shanghai Dragons have once again kind of come in blind, like the Zhous before them against Seoul. And we need to see some sort of answer here. They're going to have to win the neutral. They're going to have to win the tank war a lot harder than they are right now.
Yeah. Mr. 10K himself looking to shut them down. Pile driver coming in, looking for the pop-up, doesn't find it. Gesture this time, rather than finding the first kill, is just going to be eliminated. Fitz, however, pursuing forward, gets Izayaki. Slip goes on the hunt here in the back line and will be able to find creative in the end. Prophet lobbing out those rockets, nearly gets the elimination on the enemy Sombra, forces him to translocate out. The Shanghai Dragons will be the first ones on the board, and that is a very good look for them. Fearless is able to get Prophet out of the sky.
Insane charge for Lip, by the way. 80%. He's going to get EMP first. He's actually spent a lot of his time trying to kill Prophet. He hasn't gotten the elimination, but he's got a ton of EMP charge, and he's zoned Prophet out of these fights. Now he's going to get a big hack onto Gesture. Looks like actually onto Marvel, sorry, excuse me. Not going to be able to confirm that into an limb, but they have the EMP for this defense. Fitz 5% away.
Drop down comes through from Gesture. The EMP does strike, catches 3, and Gesture. Everybody piles in on top of the Roadhog to finish him off. Robin, however, finds Fearless. Fleta taking him down right as he pops the barrage. Won't even be able to get the trade-off kill there onto the Tracer. Cannot happen. Sleep Dart connects, but Fleta's going to be just fine.
There's a low ceiling across.
Nap after getting that shut down.
Yeah, and there's a low ceiling across most of this map. Only once you get onto the point, really, do you have space to work with as the Pharah. So this is where it gets really hard, right? If you lose the first cap on any control point, you're going to have a hard time. But especially when you're running a Pharah, for example, and you're trying to get back in through these choke points, I mean, you're just exposed. Even a Sombra can hack you and drop you off the side of the map here. You've got to be careful.
Okay, well, Prophet going to find Lee Jae Gon. He's not being nearly as elusive as he normally is. Prophet pushing forward continuously, finds another one. Almost found the direct hit there on a Fleta to try to finish him off on the fadeaway. Shanghai Dragons, however, still owning the point as the flip now will finally come through for the Seoul Dynasty. 71% built up for Shanghai, and cleanup coming in, so no chance of a fast retake. It's going to have to be a full reset here for Shanghai Dragons.
I'll say
that being said, they have a multitude of ultimates.
I'll say it probably multiple more times throughout this series. Don't get too excited, though, Seoul fans, because Lip's coming up with an EMP here. Seoul Dynasty has a nano to try to mitigate that, but no real strong tank that can actually survive through. Fitz here almost gets taken out. That would have been the end of it right there. They have to be so careful with how they use this nano boost. They have to use that in the last possible second to keep one of the tanks alive, very likely. Fitz, if he can survive the EMP.
5 HP. Lip's going to be hacked. He can't use the EMP. They do manage to keep him alive, however. Now it's going to be Prophet taken down again while he's using the barrage. Fleta finds the kill. Looks for the fadeaway pulse bomb there to try to finish off Toby. He will not find it, but Void will still be able to capitalize on that Mercy being out of play. They get the kill now. Gesture's going to be taken down. Marvel rolls through, drops out the minefield, but he's just got no HP, no way to survive. Fleta comes up with that kill yet again. And Seoul Dynasty will be losing out on the point. Fearless just going to be tagging up, clearing out the mines, and allowing for Izayaki to get some of that ult charge back.
Look at Seoul Dynasty.
Marvel now swaps over onto the Diva.
Yep.
80% here for
They've
Shanghai.
got to change comp. They have to be more mobile here. They have to set up for a big EMP fight. Marvel's going to have to be there for extra mini rocket, the mini missile damage coming through when the EMP hits. But the Dragons have a sound barrier. They've got their own EMP. I mean, it's looking like a third round here. Ooh, but the angle is so good.
On the Fearless, they're still trying to finish him off. The EMP comes out. It's going to be solo onto Marvel. So they do go ahead flat, finish off that baby Diva. Fleta taking a lot of damage, forced to go in for the recall. EMP comes out from Fitz. Got Lee Jae Gon. He does not elude this one. And even though he is still alive, can still drop the beat and try and delay. They lose out on 4 members around him. Fearless now pushing through. Would love to receive that shield from Lee Jae Gon, who it seems like was running back, I would assume. Or he's already exited. Didn't quite see where he was at the start of it, but either way, wasn't in position to counter.
I mean, he ended up getting hacked, and then he decided to save the sound barrier because they know this fight, they have the better ult economy. They can come in even swapping Lip over because they're not going to get an EMP very quickly here. They're not going to get it in the last 30%, so why not just try to shut that bar down hard, hard counter with the McCree as best as they can. Forget about ult economy. We just need to win one fight. Sound barrier is going to give them the longevity to do that. I love the choice to keep it, to hold on to that after getting hacked in EMP. Yeah. Shanghai Dragons still have the advantage here. They just have to win one more fight.
Okay, well, sound barrier is the go button here for the Shanghai Dragons as they go ahead and push forward. Pulse bomb sticks onto the pillar, doesn't quite find Creative who they were looking for, but Lee Jae Gon comes up with that kill, pressing in to get rid of the enemy Ana. 96% here, Shanghai make their way to the point. They touch it this time to continue to force out the OT as a res comes out from Toby. Now drop off the side of the map, however, and he's got not that many great options of where to go. Prophet, however, with a barrage, gets rid of Lee Jae Gon. Void knocked out of the mech. They finish off the baby Diva. The OT starts bleeding away. Shanghai Dragons very much might be losing out on this map. Izayaki manages to find 2, both supports taken down by his hand, but Prophet strikes back just a little bit harder, finishes him off, and the Seoul Dynasty will be able to take the first map. Busan goes their way with a 2-0 over the Shanghai Dragons.
I cannot believe that they were able to hold that. The whole crux of what Seoul is doing with these Roadhog comps, whether it's Double Sniper, Pig Suite, or if it's this style of Roadhog we're seeing with the Pharah, it's splitting the enemy team apart. Seoul is one big unit, one big group on the point, eliminating this tank line. One's extremely mobile in the Wrecking Ball, spinning around, right? So difficult to eliminate, so difficult to track down. The other one is so difficult to kill because it's got take a breather, can keep healing up, it's very difficult to kill. You can hook, you can peel. And then suddenly Prophet is just like, all right, well, if you're hooking the Diva, then I'm going to do tons of damage. And suddenly Prophet just fills the kill feed. Silently, silent killer, sometimes the most dangerous. He just suddenly is like, well, I mean, you guys are getting worn down. You guys are too split up. You can't get all the Lucio healing for Lee Jae-gon, who's also playing too aggressively. And then Seoul steals the map away. I mean, literally steal the map away.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. And now they're up 1-0, 7-0 in playoffs.
7-0 in playoffs, looking to carry on that same path, try to make this a 9-0. Shanghai Dragons, their map pick is King's Row for Hybrid, so when we come back, we'll see if they can tie up this set 1-1 or if Seoul Dynasty can carry on with the streak, take us to match point. Either way, it's going to be a very wild ride, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in just a few minutes with King's Row.
Rains from above. I require Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. An action-packed first map now out of the way. Busan goes to the Seoul Dynasty, defending some home territory there on Korean soil. Shanghai Dragons now, with their map pick of King's Row, are going to be looking to tie up this set, make it a 1-1.
Yeah, and our next map, to spoil it for everybody, is going to be King's Row. And
I just said it like 5 seconds.
Oh, sorry. It's.
I said it before the break.
Oh, you did say it before the break, yeah. Well, if you missed it, the next map is going to be King's Row. Before the map, okay, look, I mean to say before the map graphic comes up and it's like whoosh, and then it says King's Row. I'm telling you guys, right?
I know.
So
that's like the poke fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why we're a good duo, right? We make fun of each other, but
yeah, exactly. And you can't do anything about it because you're stuck in quarantine for 5 days.
Wait until those days are up. I'm coming for you. Anyway, back to the point at hand. It's a strong map pick for the Shanghai Dragons. Plays around Lips, Sombra. Plays around corridors where EMPs can be really effective. You know, in some ways, it's hard to farm EMP on King's Row because you don't have a lot of space to work with as Sombra. But at the same time, EMPs are more effective. You have that choke point you can work with on A, on the defense, and on attack, arguably, depending on how, obviously, the map is going. But you also have the ability to shut Pharah down a lot easier, because Pharah has airspace, but not a lot of horizontal movement, so to speak, because the corridors in the streets phase of King's Row are very narrow. That is to say, you know, it's harder to play Pharah, but we've seen a few teams play Pharah on this map to relative success already here in playoffs. So it's not like this is an Pharah-able map, but it's definitely going to be harder. But Seoul Dynasty could just swap over to Roadhog Zarya. They can play the Roadhog Sigma. There's so many different comps they can run. Shanghai needs to be faster on adapting. They need to be faster on the adaptation, or Seoul might just run them over, just like they did Hangzhou and Guangzhou before them.
Yeah, I think if anything, for the side of the Seoul Dynasty, you just keep Fitz on the Sombra, put Prophet on the Ashe that he's been looking so very strong on as of late. So if you don't want to run the Pharah, then it's fine. Take the sniper battle. So we might just see that come through. As we enter in onto the map, and the clock ticks down, and we'll be able to see what these teams have prepared for us. Bear in mind, this is the Shanghai Dragons map pick. So there's that extra expectation on them to come out strong here.
And they will defend first. It's going to be Reaper here with the Sombra, so pretty meta, right? Fearless on the Winston. And, you know, you can be incredible at this comp, and you can scrim against tons of Roadhog style play, double sniper Roadhog, and Sigma. But doesn't necessarily mean you can beat Seoul's variation of it, because their ability to peel against Winston, the shutdown dive, to shut down Reaper play, has been really unparalleled in Asia. So even though Shanghai, you know, they're playing meta, and this meta can beat what Seoul is running, it's very strong against it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be meta, right? I feel like Seoul is a different beast. Let's see what they decide to run here. It's going to be the Pharah. Again, this is the problem with the defense. The attackers get the ability to scout, change composition, and now the Pharah is very strong on A. Even if they don't use it in the streets phase, can get you a great time bank.
Lip in the back, on the hunt. You can see Jester trying to spy check where possible. Lip respecting creative.
Beacon in place.
Goes ahead, instantly jumps away before that sleep dart really leaves the gun. Prophet dropping low. Those rockets inside of the hotel room. This will be spotting them out. Tries to get that hack onto Void, get rid of that D-Matrix, so Prophet can really let the damage loose. Doesn't manage to do so. Fleta falling low, force into the Wraith Walk. He'll be able to back up as Jester is still under fire, tries to stay alive. Does manage to do so as Marvel will be receiving a hack. Prophet still very comfortable up in the skies, however. Pushing around the corner here, getting those shots continuously through, trying to get that lineup here, trying to get a kill. If he can get a break on a Void's mech, would really line up for this barrage usage. Coalescence, however, starts things off from Izayaki. Lip taken down. Jester finds the hook in to finish him off. Lippy not in the fight yet, gives Fitz an opportunity to try to catch up, as Lippy is very much ahead of him. Rockets coming down, Wraithwalk force yet again from Fleta, wraps around the statue. Barrage going to be coming through, gets one, gets the knockout on the mech. Prophet jumps back with a concussive blast. Now looks for the follow-up shots here on the Fearless, who's still rather healthy on the Winston.
Yeah, they're so
very
zoned
much
out.
as far away from the point.
Yeah, Fitz is rezzed here. He's going to have an EMP shortly. Lip has his, but he's obviously struggling to get back to the point. I don't think they're going to contest this. You can see Void considering the options here. Lip's there.
Fearless
They're
is still
going
behind.
for it.
He pulls the trigger on it, manages to find 4. Jester, the recipient of the nano boost. As Marvel will be the first one to fall. Fearless hacked out, drops the bubble. Prophet still finds the kill as he looks to build up towards another barrage. As hits coming in, 5 members, all remaining members of the Shanghai Dragons, hacked by the EMP as they look for the follow-up. Prophet gets a dome shot there onto Lee J. Gone. Jester going to be res back into the fray as Prophet continues to pick up kill after kill. This man is already looking for 20k now,
Yeah,
it would
feels
seem.
like he's-
as Prophet just continues to pick up each and every final
Feels
blow.
like he's on his way, right? He's going to stay with the Pharah too. He's close to a barrage, but I don't think that's the reason. I feel like he just thinks, okay, Shanghai's not going to swap. Their Diva play isn't good enough. So far isn't, I mean, it's hard to play Diva versus Hog and Sombra, right? So the Diva is really struggling to find value versus the Pharah here. It's not Void's fault. It's just a fact of what they're up against. And so he's going to stick with it here. And the cart keeps rolling. Shanghai Dragons used EMP on the last fight, so they don't have that engagement tool. And so Seoul is just rolling for free right now. No contest here.
Yep, hack onto Fearless, hack onto Gesture. Both tanks okay for the moment. Bionade out onto 2 on the Shanghai Dragons, but no follow-up to be found. Lee Jae-gon now does have that sound barrier available. Likely just going to be holding it until Fitz gets ready to pull the trigger on that EMP. But as I say that, Lee Jae-gon goes ahead. They take the fight to the Seoul Dynasty, looking to push them away from the cart. Jester as Hack can't take a breather, and even if he could, I don't think he would be able to survive there. Fleta tries to go in for the TP, but the Baby Diva will actually go ahead and finish him
But
off
they get the choke
before he gets allowed to do that. But Shanghai Dragons, they win the wider fight.
Yeah, they win the longer fight. They get this choke, and this is exactly what I was talking about with Sombra. This archway is so strong for Sombra play. It's going to be really difficult for Pharah and crew to actually get through. They have a ton of ultimates. They have the nano boost, but actually getting through this narrow in choke point, I mean, it's going to be so difficult to do. Fitz scouts out where Shanghai is. They're actually playing super far back. Lip wants to actually help set up a sandwich here. He's unscouted. They let them go through the archway, but they want to engage ASAP with this EMP once he gets around this corner. Such a slow style, though, from a Soul. They're playing it so safely. Lip's dead.
Oh, man, but Marvel from above takes down Lip, gets the headshots woven in with the rockets. Punishes him, trying to go for that hack. Construct used by Void, will not find a pick. They get the hook in onto Fleta, pulled off screen.
And this Primal's useless.
He is hacked. Stella has not yet died, but the supports are gone now from the side of the Shanghai Dragons. Wraithwalk gets them a little bit of extra distance as Prophet looks to go ahead and finish off that Reaper. Hasn't happened yet, might not happen at all, but either way, Point B has been broken open. Shanghai Dragons, do they go for a last-second contest? I don't think they can.
It's going to be hard to. They have EMP, just like they had for the A contest. That ended up working poorly for them in the end. There it is again.
Okay, they're trying to go for it. Self-destruct out, doesn't manage to find anything. Marvel will be able to make it back into the mech, but Prophet comes in, takes down 3 with the barrage.
This is basic,
that is the near team wipe.
This is basic.
Void, the only one left alive.
This is a basic mistake, right, of ult economy. I mean, this is as easy as it gets in terms of decision-making. Almost no team wants to go into an EMP barrage like this for the contest, but Shanghai are so desperate right now for any fight they could try to take. That's not the Death Blossom you want in terms of kills. It does help them win the fight, but I mean, Shanghai haven't really retaken anything. They've gotten the Marvel out of the mech and they kill him, but what else have they got?
Prophet gets Fleta. Falling low. With barely dodging, getting hacked. Fearless, however, he is the next recipient. Fitz focus fires him. The Bionade setup from Creative is good. Get the push forward here on the Lee Jae-gon. One more direct shot from Prophet would have finished him off, but it doesn't matter because Jester is there as well. It's the alley-oop as they work together to get the finishing blow.
That was a mistake,
Barrage coming out from Prophet. Yeah, not quite what he wanted to do. I think he thought he was going to get jumped on, perhaps, maybe by Lip on the high ground. Wanted to blow him up before the EMP could come out. Either way, not a great look. The barrages have been high impact so far from Prophet. Now is without that tool. Lip desperately tries to get the hack here onto Marvel, gets interrupted, and Lee Jae-gon is the one who gets pulled out. It's taken down. Hack comes in. The EMP from Fitz finds 3. Fearless the first to fall. Lip answering in kind. Does manage to catch 3 as well on the side of the Seoul Dynasty, but the nano boost is there on a Jester to keep him alive. Sound barrier now dropped. Lee Jae-gon shielding up the team as Fleta will fall. Toby taken down with 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining. The Shanghai Dragons, maybe they can just actually pull this off and force the Seoul Dynasty to back off yet again. You can see Jester going on the retreat.
But re-engage actually with Marvel. I don't know about this one. He's a bit alone.
Yeah. Was hacked instantly as he tried to roll through.
Yeah,
that's just going to be a little bit costly for the time being.
Yeah, I say a bit alone, but I should say a lot alone. He was totally hard engaged by himself with no backup. Prophet's going to come in here with a barrage, but they don't have the EMP yet. Fitz going to get that last 10%, and that I think is going to be their engage tool. If they can hit the hack on the Void, the barrage could be big, and that can help them close the map. Huge sleep on the Fearless.
Sleep dart in on the Fearless. The bubble doesn't come out fast enough. They go ahead and break that bubble down. Marvel, however, again hacked. Focus fired. Lip comes up with the kill. Fearless hacked as well, falling lower and lower. EMP comes out, manages to catch 3, including Void. He'll get melted out of that mech, but hack comes in from Lip. Responding, interrupts that barrage. Prophet kept alive by the nano boost thus far. Coalescence from Mizuyaki tracks Toby down in the skies, finds that kill. Fitz comes up with Lee Jae-gon, who's going to be respawning and nearly has that sound barrier ready to go. Down to 30 seconds remaining here for the Seoul Dynasty. Marvel, the only one with an ultimate at the moment.
Yeah, this is
the minefield.
This is really tough. I mean, they're going to have to somehow demech Void, and then Prophet's going to have to carry. He's done it several times. He just did it on Busan. But, I mean, Void's playing safe. Marvel, maybe this is the fight. This is the one where he gets the big minefield, maybe knocks Void out of the mech. That's what he's hoping for. There's the field.
Drops it down to the point. Can't continue to play that far forward, though, for fear of getting hacked. Pulse Bomb comes out looking for the kill on the Gesture. Gets a little bit of damage, but overall, Gesture's still just going to be popping out that whole hog, trying to push people back. That has now since expired, as is the shielding from Lee Jing on Sound Barrier. Marvel finds one. The Minefield knocks Void out of the mech. Now Fearless is going to be gone. Izayaki builds up the Coalescence, instantly pops that one, but the Barrage one comes down from Profit. Looks for the follow-up shots, does manage to find the Baby Diva, gets lift. The cart should just be able to roll in. 0.92 meters left to go for the Seoul Dynasty as Fitz holds onto a defensive EMP. Pops it as Fearless arrives on the Wrecking Ball. They need the Focus Fire, however. They finally do finish him off. They will be able to roll the cart in, but with no time in the bank.
I mean, that was an incredible fight for Seoul Dynasty. But I will say, Shanghai Dragons starting to figure it out, right? We're seeing some really nice defensive EMPs. We're seeing Shanghai Dragons set up to deal with the barrage with Sombra. We're seeing really nice play from the supports to really put the pressure on the Prophet, so it's not as easy for him to set up. And obviously on C, it's going to be a lot easier because Seoul has to operate around a corner. You get halted at all here on C, and then every single setup, every single fight, the defenders have a nice advantage, which is why, Marvel starts to look really weak. He starts to look silly in some of these fights because you're like, what is he doing? But it's a really hard engage you have to have. Sometimes that could be difficult to coordinate. Well, we're seeing insane plays. Like Marvel goes in with the Minefield. He sets up to try to kill the Diva. Nano Boost immediately onto Prophet. He drops a barrage. I mean, this is insane coordination from Seoul on a level that we just really haven't seen all year long. Even when they put Shanghai to the brink back in the, what was it, the Summer Showdown? I can't remember which. No, it was the May Melee, I think it was, because I was in quarantine at that time. So were you. We were in there together. I think it was the May Melee where they went to that one. But anyway, since then, like even at that point where they almost put Shanghai out of that finals, almost won that 4-0 before they got reverse swept. Like even the coordination we saw from them then, I feel isn't at the level of what we're seeing from them now. If they have a good defense here, with this Pharah, things can really turn around. Shanghai just unwilling to run a McCree, unwilling to run Ashe. They're sticking with this Reaper. And Lip can't do both the Sombra and the McCree, so that's a scary thing here. They see the Pharah, obviously they have the ability to change comps, but I don't think they will. Based on what we've seen so far, they want to keep running this.
I might need this later.
Well, that they do. Seattle Fares now on the defense. Flutter going back over to the Reaper. Dynamite over the top. Really nice hit there from Fitz. Surging forward in the ult charge. Now Lee Jae Gon. Again, I feel like I'm seeing Lee Jae Gon's name way more than usual, and it's for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Has been taken down first in these fights very consistently so far. Bionade goes out. Izayaki fades that one off himself as Fearless will be taking a nap, and then he gets finished by Gesture.
It's kind of a meme. Lee Jae Gon dies first in a lot of fights, but sometimes it's like he made the big boop, he made the big play, he had this huge sound barrier, he dies, but he made it worth it, right? But in a lot of these fights here, like, he's overextending, he's not respecting Prophet, and like you said, it's for the wrong reasons we're seeing him in the kill feed. It's not a good thing here that he's dying early so often. Seoul is just so coordinated. It's such a hard time to be a Diva player when you're always the hack target, you're always the hook target, you're always getting barraged by these rockets.
Oh, Lip looking for the hack, can't quite get him. Gesture taken very low. Will get finished off. Fleta does manage to burst him down in the end. Retreats into the hotel. Go ahead and pick up that mini pack. Res comes out, however, so Gesture straight back into the fray. Shanghai Dragons now lose out on Void's mech as Fitz sits in this interior here and almost gets finished off. Barrage comes out from Prophet, finds Lee Jae Gon again, but does get taken down. Explosions finishing himself off. Gesture taking a breather, now has the whole hog ready to go. Whips the hook onto Fleta, gets pushed on. Fleta strikes him down.
Can they prevent the primal?
He comes out from Lip.
Nah. Not even gonna have to use
Fearless
it.
is dead. But I don't know if they want to keep going for this one. Prophet is playing forward.
They can poke, but I don't think they should
only
hard
the second tick. The tanks are really far away. I think they can't do it. Yeah, they're just going to poke and farm.
Yeah.
Okay.
They let it go. That was a scary moment.
We've seen some pretty crazy fights today. NYXL going for some of those recontests, so I'm not sure when people are and are not going to go for it.
It was crazy, by the way, that first fight. You pause the moment right before the kills come through, and then you think, okay, Shanghai's got this, and you see white through the kill feed. The away team is actually the ones picking up the kills. Insane that Seoul were able to start that fight off well, but they don't have a happy ending in terms of the hold here so far. They have the archway control, but no great tools outside of rockets here to hold it for long. As you see, the breakthrough happens.
Yeah, the whole hog comes out, but is greeted with a hack, as is Fearless, and no primal range to be used yet, but that will expire. Void throws out the self-destruct, looks for a pick in the back, doesn't manage to find one, but Jester's still going to be taken down as Flutter presses forward, getting on top of that Roadhog. He walks off that bio nade, which is clipped onto 4 members on the side of the Shanghai Dragons, and for now the cart will be able to advance. Toby, however, finds a res. The barrage comes down from Prophet, manages to get rid of Lip, pushes himself away with the concussive blast, staying safe yet again. Now looks for the follow-up here as they want to get that cart control. EMP comes through from Fitz, finds multiple members on the side of the Shanghai Dragons, and they are able to capitalize. The cart control could very well be in their hands for a while now, unless the Shanghai Dragons can break through.
The cool thing about this too for Seoul Dynasty is, even though the big ultimate the Shanghai Dragons have is that EMP, I mean, Lip is going to have to really thread the needle on getting out here, right? He's going to have to avoid all the spy checks. He's going to have to go through every security checkpoint, and then he's going to have to get that backline EMP off if they're to break through this. And look at this. I mean, he's trying to find his way through, and so far, so good.
He does manage to do so. Gets 3 on the EMP as he pushes around the corner. Not too bad. Marvel going to be the first one to get attacked, but just stay alive long enough to use the self-destruct, but cannot go for the remake. Flutter manages to find that kill. Teleporting forward, Death Blossom still going to be held. He moves up onto the high ground, pops it solo here on a creative. Does manage to find that kill as Prophet punishes him, but it's very much the Shanghai Dragons who are able to win the longer fight. Toby with a res on the creative, though, tries to equalize things, but now it's just kind of a support way in the back away from the cart, which is moving into point B.
This is a very scary moment for Seoul Dynasty, though. They really need to stop this momentum right here with a good team fight, and this isn't it. Like, this is actually could be an insane time bank for Shanghai if things continue at this rate.
No support. Prophet still pops the barrage. Yeah, the rockets come in. He gets rid of 1. Anything beyond that would have been absolute insanity, and basically the Shanghai Dragons AFKing. That does not happen. They get that punished now. They'll just go ahead and finish off these members of the Seoul Dynasty.
Yeah.
And it's 3 minutes, 10 seconds for the final stretch.
The cracks of the Seoul Dynasty's comp and their playstyle begin to show here, you know? I mean, they're starting to really try to take these scrappy fights, try to win these unwinnable fights. It's almost like they have too much faith in this composition. The Shanghai Dragons are just playing it stock standard, and they've got great ult economy still to keep pushing this through. They've got another EMP set up here. And the Shanghai Dragons have a comp that doesn't care about the high ground.
Pulls there onto Void's mech. Is hacked, can't remech yet, but they haven't really gotten any shots in there onto the Baby Diva. Anabu's out from creative, goes to Prophet, looks for a target, but he's gonna get hacked. The EMP strikes, finds 3 members. Esther gone as well. Things continue to look very good for the Shanghai Dragons to finish this with above a minute. The Seoul Dynasty would have to try to play for a draw. See if they can hold on, try to extend this
any longer.
EMP. But the cart right now, free rolling forward. Barely managed to tag point, 29 meters left to go as Marvel gets knocked out of the mech. You can see the healing coming through as Toby takes to the skies, trying to keep everybody topped up. Jester finds 1, the headshot on the Fleta. Getting rid of the Reaper, but the primal range is there. Creative going to be gone now. Marvel eliminated as well. Jester waiting for his moment, pushes around the corner. Whole Hog going to be coming in on the back end of the EMP. Out the barrage, layered in as well, but only finds Void's mech. Slip strikes down 2. Gesture Prophet gone, and that is the push through with 1 minute and 51 seconds remaining. Shanghai Dragons now have a win condition.
I mean, that was insane how much the Seoul Dynasty were able to buy time there, considering the Shanghai Dragons ultimates and their insane push, right? I think Fitz, I mean, he had this insane patience. I called it out. He had an opportunity to EMP, but he knew it was probably going to cost him his life. He was at, 1/3 of his health bar, and I think went down to like 20 when he did end up translocating out. But a lot of Sombras would have tried to EMP there, and he probably would have died if he did. He went back and he wanted to have this follow-up EMP where the rest of the team had spawn advantage. Maybe they were going to make it happen. But that choice, didn't end up working out for him in the end. They didn't end up getting that massive EMP fight that they wanted. And it feels like Shanghai Dragons are playing one of the best ways to deal with Pharahs is they're playing this older style of anti-Pharah, which is to just simply ignore the damage and play aggressively, right? They're killing the back line. They're finding forward hacks onto Gesture, which makes his life a lot harder as Roadhog. Lip's starting to really farm up EMP off of him. And instead of just trying to deal with the Pharah as Lip was on Busan and parts of the early part of this map of King's Row, where he's actually chasing Prophet and trying to get right-click hacks on him, they're almost largely ignoring Prophet's Pharah, and they're finding a lot more value. As you mentioned, draw, best case scenario here for Seoul Dynasty. And they're going to keep running this Pharah comp.
Shanghai Dragons. It's a little bit shy of 2 minutes to try to get that single tick. Bits in the back line, goes for the hack, doesn't manage to find one yet. They get the hack on the gesture. It's made into mincemeat. Fleta comes up with the kill. Izayaki, however, traded out. Prophet looking for a little bit more. Has the timing perfect on Fleta's Wraith Walk. As soon as he comes out of that, has the double tap rockets to follow up. Gets rid of Void as well. It seems like Seoul Dynasty will get a second lease on life with this defense as they go ahead and get the finishing blows on the Lee Jae.
The thing is, if you focus all of your resources on killing Gesture, and he dies even, he's still done his job, essentially, especially if he gets rezzed by Toby. Because the rest of the team, you know, is everyone is focused on, while everyone's focused on Gesture, Prophet's doing massive damage, right? He's hurting the backline, he's pushing Void out of his mech. It becomes so difficult for that vault fight, but here's the EMP fight that Shanghai wants to win this map with to tie up the series. Uncontested, unseen.
Yeah, Gesture not quite noticing there. Knows that the hook is down now, so very limited options to try to shut him out. EMP goes through, manages to catch on the 4 members. Fitz tries to counteract, catches 2. Barrage comes in from Prophet. He will be able to get Void out of the mech. They actually keep him alive. He stays in the fight now. Fearless going to be gone. Lip getting chunked down, forced away. Does manage to exit as Prophet continues to play forward, but has he overstepped? The answer is yes. Lip finds the kill, but the res is there from Toby.
Unbelievable from Prophet. Unbelievable.
Make up for his mistakes.
I cannot believe it. Perfectly threads the needle.
I can't believe they keep him alive.
This is their last chance, Shanghai Dragons, for this map.
6 seconds remaining. They have to touch the point. Lee Jae already low. Hack comes out on the Void, but it's going to be Marvel, the first one to fall. Prophet finds Lee Jae yet again. He's 11% away from that sound barrier. Self-destruct goes out. Fitz gets clipped. Gesture now falls. Prophet comes back in, gets Hack's low HP. The pocket healing there from Toby is just not in time. He's got no way to bring him back into the fight. Dangerously close here for the Seoul Dynasty to pull off this draw, but it will not happen. Shanghai Dragons do manage to break through. They get the cap on point A. They tie up this series 1-1.
Wow, what a start to what could be one of the best series that we have across both regions in playoffs. Prophet's Pharah, insane, seems unstoppable. Shanghai Dragons just running into this with a comp that some would argue is being hard countered by what Seoul's running, but they've scrimmed against this, they have practiced against this, they know how to hunker down, look for strong EMP fights, target down Gesture in some of these fights, the Roadhog, get him out of the picture so there's no more peel. I mean, this is back and forth, insane action, 2 completely different styles of play clashing. Sometimes you just see 2 teams running the same meta. We've seen that really for the last 3 years, majority of the time, right? 2 teams running the same comps, 6 heroes on one side, 6 heroes on the other side. There's a line of symmetry. Not this time. 2 completely different styles of play running into each other, and it's hard to say who really has the edge, but it feels like Shanghai is starting to figure it out.
I mean, well, they get a win on their map pick, so Kings Row goes their way. 1-1 in this 1-3 series. You know, we have our game break coming up. When we come back from that, it's going to be Seoul Dynasty, you know, with their map choice. We'll see what that is going to be, where they will be taking us, and whether or not it's going to be good enough for them to take another step forward and get to match point, because both of these teams are going to be vying for that position. Shift the opponent onto the back foot. We'll see who can do that when we after the game break, but coming up, we're going to have that game break. We're going to have our crunch time, so stay tuned. We'll have that in just a few.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's now time for our game break presented by Pringles Wavy. We're tied up 1-1 here at the halftime. This match between the Seoul Dynasty and the Shanghai Dragons. It is so close. It's so good so far, Wolf.
It really is.
That's all I can say. I can just scream.
This is exactly what everybody wants to see, right? And I touched on it before we went to our break, before our game break. But I think this is the kind of Overwatch that a lot of people really enjoy to watch, where you have two different styles clashing against each other, and one style is considered the counter to the other, but the reason why not everyone is running that is because most people think the standard style can beat it, and it's two completely different coaching styles, it's two completely different schools of thought. And at the beginning, it looks like, okay, well, Shanghai, they're just not adapting. They might get rolled here. Maybe Seoul just gets the 9-0. It's not going to happen. We're tied up already. But you don't see Shanghai adapting. You don't see Shanghai changing their heroes. You don't see them adapting their hero pool.
A whole lot.
Right? You don't see them adapting the heroes that their players are playing. But you do see them adapting how they play them, how they play around Gesture, how they play around Prophet, how they ignore Prophet's damage. Instead of trying to just mitigate that with Void, while Void's getting picked off by Gesture on the other side and then everything falls apart, they're just sticking together. They're playing around Fleta on the Reaper. They're playing this hunkered down, really defensive style where they're able to kind of move forward together as a group, set up for good EMP fights, sometimes pick off Gesture first. That adaptation, I think, is something that you don't see in the top of your screen in the hero swaps, but you do see in-game. And that's what's really exciting about how this series is evolving. And if it continues to evolve this way, I think eventually Shanghai will start to get that big edge.
They very well could. I mean, they've been the top team the most consistently throughout this season. They were able to take away 2 tournament victories during the regular season. So I mean, history would lead you to that conclusion, I think. But this is a totally new Seoul Dynasty that we're dealing with. So who knows what's going to happen in the rest of this set? That being said, though, Wolf, I think it's time for a certain little feature that we do every game break.
Yeah, it's time for our Crunch Time, presented by Pringles Wavy. I want to talk about the two flex DPSs we have on these two teams, Prophet and Fleta. Remember, Fleta was a Seoul Dynasty player for the last 2 seasons, had an insane amount of pull on the team, was one of their star players, and it was like he was trapped, right? He was on Flash Lux when Prophet, was dominating a GC Busan, ended up taking that title, becomes MVP, becomes Finals MVP of 2018. Fleta got out of Flash Lux, joined Lunatic High very briefly before, of course, being absorbed into Seoul. Has a weak first season after being hyped up so much. All the Apex casters are hyping Fleta up. He doesn't perform as well as people expect. He does well, but where's the deadlift, right? Fast forward to 2019, he has some big moments, but it's not enough, right? And it feels like, wow, Fleta could be so much more if he could just get out of Seoul Dynasty, right? Now he's on Shanghai Dragons fighting against his old team, and it's the new player who's taken his slot, Prophet, who you think, a lot of people say, wow, Prophet's washed. Oh, he's not having that great of a season. His echo was not so good. Remember that? Prophet's been, up and down. But Prophet's coming in on Pharah, one of Fleta's iconic heroes, and is actually getting to play the game I think Fleta wishes he could have played on Seoul Dynasty. And it must be a weird feeling for him to have to stay on the Reaper this entire time. He's not swapping heroes. He's doing what his coach wanted. He's not deadlifting. He's part of a unit. He's part of a team. He's doing his job on the Reaper. For the first time, it feels like Fleta is actually a cog in the wheel, but like in its own perfect way, like all the grooves line up, all the, the parts of the cog, the little square parts that like link together.
I understand.
You know what a cog is. He's fit in perfectly, and it's crazy to see this clash of two superstar DPSs. Prophet was always on the right team, right? He was on GC Busan, Royal Roading, Apex. Then he goes on to obviously win the first season of Overwatch League, and then rough season last year, but he was still a top Zarya player. And now he's riding the end, just like London Spitfire did in 2018, of this playoffs on Pharah, one of his better heroes back even in Apex Season 4. But Fleta, the old flex DPS for Seoul Dynasty, is one of those that stands in his way. But for the first time, Fleta's not really flexing. He's just playing his role. And that's a cool matchup. Like, I just wanted to crunch time in on this really iconic matchup of superstar in Prophet, who actually got all the trophies, who got all the awards, and Fleta, who's always almost there. Same role, obviously same team if you look back at the Seoul Dynasty. And it's just really cool to think about that, historically speaking, where these two players stand.
Yeah. It's been a long road for their careers. You know, even with how young Overwatch is as a game compared to some of the other esports out there. You know, these guys have been playing since the beginning, and it has been a long and arduous journey for a lot of them. Flutta especially is probably the epitome of somebody rising above their past. But as far as, we can talk that story up as much as possible, but the main story here is who is going to be advancing into the top 4 globally, and I do not have the answer for you. All we can do now is wait and get ready to continue this series. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. When we come back, we're going to have more of this versus this, Tigers versus Dragons, Dynasty versus Shanghai. Let's see what happens when we return after the break. See which one of these teams is going to be able to take a step forward and get the match point.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
All right, welcome back. It's time to carry on with this series. Everything on the line right now between the Seoul Dynasty and the Shanghai Dragons. Tied up 1-1. Map pick now in the hands of the Seoul Dynasty, and they are taking us to Hanamura.
Hanamura, I mean, this is a map where you can play both styles for sure. I mean, Pharah is still strong here, absolutely,
yep.
But, the standard, Reaper Sombra that we're seeing from Shanghai Dragons will work here just as well. And it's still, again, shocking that we're not seeing any flexibility from the Shanghai Dragons in terms of what they're playing, in terms of the heroes they're running. They're just sticking hard with what they've practiced and what is, the most standard composition across the league. We're not seeing any Lip McCree, even though he's had great success with it this year. Because, Fled is not a great Sombra player, so he's kind of stuck on that rule. And they're not taking any chances. They're not taking any risks with this. They're just adapting their playstyle on the fly. Seoul Dynasty, on the other hand, you could say the same thing. They're not really changing up their style either. We know they can play the Sigma Roadhog that we haven't seen from them yet, the double sniper they're great at, and they can also play a lot of really good dives. So we just have to wait and see how they want to change as the series goes on, or if they even want to. Like, this is not as deep as the rabbit hole goes for Seoul Dynasty. If you've been watching APAC, you know that. I mean, there's more to it than just Pharah only. And now the Pharah's hit a wall. It makes you wonder, will we see that double sniper?
Find out here momentarily what they want to start gearing towards. Shanghai Dragons looking like first on the defense. As Lip is showing us a Symmetra so far, and Fleta is showing us the Pharah.
That would be a very interesting way. Okay, I was going to say...
Well, one change up, but does Fleta stay with Pharah? If it happens, then I think it's still pretty big pog, and yeah, you can see him pushing forward here with Lee Jae gone.
Yep. Pushing in here to Fleta, you know, we were talking about it. He's been the just safe, according to Coach Reaper, for the first 2 maps, but we get to see his Pharah now. Talk about, you know, greatest of all-time prophet. Fleta is an absolute beast at the Pharah. He's insanely gifted on this hero. It's one of the heroes he made a name for himself on early on in his career, that and the Doomfist. Seoul Dynasty have the ability to change composition when they scout this. And we'll see what that ends up being. Ooh, Pharah versus Pharah. I never thought I'd see that in 2020.
Well,
I guess we still won't.
You might not. All right. It will just be the Ashe. It'll be a bit of double duty, though, for Prophet to try to deal with both Lip's Ashe as well as Fleta's Pharah. We'll see how he wants to try to pilot the approach towards the point. Marvel off-screen taking quite a bit of damage and just, yeah, hounded down. No way to escape. They just rip him to shreds.
Now he has to do something like that to open up this gateway. To go through the archway is difficult without any sort of backline pressure. Sometimes you do that with a Tracer, with a Sombra. In this case, their best bet was using the Wrecking Ball. It doesn't work out. They're going to take a more hardcore push approach here now with the Pig's Feet, right? You know, ha ha ha. But, I mean, that's the only name we have for this right now. Where he's going to put the shield up here to try to break through the archway and then give these snipers line of sight. You can see the slow push happening here now with that shield. There it is.
On to 2, but Prophet goes in, gets the headshot. Looks really Jay Gon, who's going to be pulled over to the side. So the res still denied, but they don't manage to pick off that Mercy quite yet. So he is still in the fight. They're topping people up. Right-click spam coming in, trying to break through that barrier.
This is worst-case scenario for Shanghai. They are going to really struggle to get back on the point. 2 snipers in position here for Seoul Dynasty, and they've got their double sniper comp set up here. Perfect peel. What's Fearless going to do? He's going to have a hard time getting in.
Well, Fitz gets tagged quite a bit there, so it does have to peel back. Prophet still sitting up in the top as the pull comes in. Fearless falling a little bit low. Prophet will find Lee Jae Gon. Fearless pushes forward, however, finds Marvel, taking him down with that primal rage. See Gesture just going to be pushing Fearless into the corner with a whole hog now, getting ready to send him off the side of the map, but we'll go ahead and finish him off before that can even happen. Toby reses Marvel back in. Dynamite connects onto Marvel as he reses back into the fight. Just over 2 ticks gained here for the Seoul Dynasty, but now Lip gone, Void broken out of the mech. You can see that he's not popping that self-destruct to get back in, which means that the Shanghai Dragons have conceded the point, as they should.
Seoul Dynasty turned their attack into a defense. They got in position on the point with double sniper, and then they were defending point A from the defensive team, trying to rejoin. The tank's taking pot shots from both Prophet and Fitz in the crossfire. If you do get to the point as the tank, or you do get on top of the tanks, you saw Fearless do to Marvel, then Gesture's there. He's got the hooks, he's got the whole hogs. It's going to be a lot harder to execute that style of play here, but they do kind of work their way up to this high ground position near the staircase. If they can actually get up here, this double snipers can wreak havoc.
Pull comes in, but the defense matrix is there to keep Fleta safe. Still takes quite a bit of damage. Now Flux out from Marvel, catches multiple members on the side of the Shanghai Dragons, and 3 kills instantly come through. Accretion point blank onto Void to try to knock him out of the mech. Take him lower and lower. Still does hold on to that self-destruct, and in fact he's just going to let the bomb go. Pushes up, trying to pistol down Fitz. Can't quite happen, however. He will be able to re-mech, but now Lee Jae Gon and Fearless have both fallen. Fleta forced to recall. The Dynamite goes out as Prophet pushes his way up onto the high ground, and 2 ticks are gained for the Seoul Dynasty. Void is gone. No one can touch, and it's 3 minutes and 39 seconds in the time bank for the Seoul Dynasty here on their attack on Hanamura.
Insane time bank here. And Seoul Dynasty just play that double sniper style. You know, like I said, just moments before, if you think the Pharah comp is all they've got, you haven't been paying attention. You haven't been watching this playoff series, because Seoul Dynasty has a lot more up their sleeve than just that. They set up the double sniper on A, get control of the high ground there, drop down, win some trades against Shanghai, and Shanghai just doesn't have the staying power against the comp that Shanghai's running anymore, or excuse me, that Seoul's running anymore. And, I mean, Flux comes through. That disrupts the high ground. That puts the tank line up there. And in this crossfire, Fitz has sovereignty over this whole point. Everything belongs to him. Like, he owns it. And that's very similar to what we just saw on A. If you get this double sniper crossfire setup, you can't dive it versus a Roadhog because he's gonna blow you up. He's gonna hook you. I mean, you're gonna be at half life instantly as either the Winston or the Diva, whichever, or both, because you've got an accretion for the stun. You've got so much CC. I mean, this is basically Seoul Dynasty setting up this comp that on paper, when you think about it, you're like, wow. Okay, double sniper. We've got to dive that. Oh wait, we can't dive it. They've got perfect peel. They've got tons of CC. Like, what do you do against this? And teams have had weeks to figure this out. And yet still, the execution here is so good for Seoul. Shanghai is struggling. Guangzhou struggled. And before them, Hangzhou. Shanghai going to run this standard comp, stock standard again, versus the Pharah here. And the Pig's Feet. We'll see if this actually finds any more success. Lip with a long translocator path here. He's going to look for that hack.
He wants that mega pack. Dynamite not finding anything here for Fitz. Marvel just continues to spam out Prophet, however, hovering above. He's got the spot. He knows exactly where everybody's coming from on the side of Shanghai. Lip makes his way into the back, however. Goes for the hack on a Marvel. They collapse. Flutta finding the kill, but 2 members going to be taken away from the Shanghai Dragons as Fearless and Lee Jae-gon will fall. But is still playing up into the face of Gesture as Prophet tries to get the DMAC there on a Void. Took him low, but can't quite make it happen. Flutta will find Fitz, but Gesture finds Flutta. A tick gained for Shanghai Dragons, but it will have to be a reset in the end.
The cool thing about the Mercy in this comp too is that, yeah, it helps you deal with, or helps you maximize damage as the Pharah, but it also means if Shanghai commit all their resources to one of your tanks, which often keeps happening with these hacks, eventually you trade the kill and you get a res. So you always have this extra number advantage. We keep seeing Toby do this repeatedly. Prophet's got a barrage, by the way.
For the hack, finds Marvel again, trying to take him down. The collapse comes through. They will find it. Prophet dead before that. Void was able to push up into his face, force him to finish himself off with the explosive damage from those rockets on the barrage. So will be 5.5 minutes now in the time bank here for the Shanghai Dragons. So still very much an opportunity to make this work. Flood has almost got a Death Blossom. There's an EMP online.
Yeah, this is a really nice setup for Shanghai Dragons to actually beat the time bank of Seoul Dynasty, as crazy as that sounds. Jae-gon pushing around quickly here with Void, trying to take that flank angle away from Gesture.
EMP comes through from Lip, does manage to get the Pharmacy duo. Both of them will fall. Izayaki hosing down Prophet with the Coalescence now. Retreats, keeps the top up here on the Fearless as he nearly has that Primal Rage online, but he will not be able to use it. Izayaki just instantly going for the reset. We'll see if he wants to swap over to a different pick. Perhaps we'll see him just move over to the Ana here.
I think he's going to stick with it. I think he just knew, like, he can quickly reset and just goes for it. Speaking of resets, Marvel going to get his mech back here very quickly. Seoul Dynasty have turned the ult economy, though, on its head. And all it takes is one good EMP fight here, and then they have the better time bank. And with no sound barrier yet for Shanghai Dragons, and the very difficult task of setting up for a Death Blossom here, it's almost guaranteed that Seoul Dynasty end up with the better bank. Worst case scenario here. Shanghai Dragons really need to be very systematic with how they approach this.
The Bionage Force there from Creative uses that Nano Boost, I think for fear of him getting taken down. Either way, it does lead to Fletta falling. Stopping the Death Blossom from coming in further as Prophet will just go ahead and get the nice little back-end kill on the Lee Jae-gon.
If you take that approach, I mean, sure, Shanghai don't waste any ultimates, which is actually pretty nice for them, but Seoul Dynasty don't use any either outside the Nano. You take that approach, and then you get one of your tanks is hacked, Prophet comes from behind, and then it's just a meat grinder that you've set yourself up for. And Shanghai Dragons, I mean, the pressure is on now because time is ticking away from them every second that goes by.
Yeah, this will be a time advantage here for the Seoul Dynasty. It's about how significant of one, and that just costs them even more time.
Yeah.
Fitz is winning a 1v1 over Lip on the Sombra.
Finds him first,
absolutely
and he tries to translocate away, but it's a softball's pitch distance he gets, and then gets taken out. I mean, we have 11 ults, nearly 12, but 11 on the ults on the board here. This is going to be a crazy firefight when it does unlock. 30 seconds bought by that trade. Lip taking the long way around here. Wants to try to knock this Pharah Mercy out of the sky, but he's found again, this time by Fitz once more.
Hasn't been decloaked yet. Jumps up into the air. The EMP comes through, and Toby just absolutely vanishes. Fleta finding the kill while he was still up top. Death Blossom comes through. Prophet does shut it down, but both supports are now out of the fight. Jester going to be eliminated. Prophet drops the barrage. Manages to find two. Void and Lip both eliminated. Fitz goes ahead, jumps away back to safety before the self-destruct can find him. Marvel tries to go for the remake, but will not be allowed to do so as Iyaki pushes forward. It's the melee hit. Rez comes out, however, from Toby, brings Marvel back into the fray, and the EMP out from Fitz manages to find 3 members. The Bionade's there on Lee J gone. The kills come through onto the supports. The Shanghai Dragons again are going to be staved off. They have a sleep dart on the Fearless. They push around. They see the D-Matrix coming through, but there's just nowhere for him to go.
Look at this Fitz just getting as much EMP charge as he can here as well. Gonna get out. Almost takes a kill with him as he does teleport away. Marvel swapping back over to the Sigma. Let's take a look at Prophet. Hacked, by the way. Shuts down the barrage. Sets up for his own, or sets down the Blossom. Then sets up for a barrage. Ends up getting taken out, but that's enough damage done.
Okay, well, back over to here. Prophet is over onto the Ash now. Lip finds the headshot to kill him off, but Toby presses him back into the fight. This is dangerous territory here for the Shanghai Dragons. Nano Boost about to be up for the Seoul Dynasty. Obviously, they still have that Sombra. This is going to be an EMP online in 32%. Prophet gets Lip. Rez is there, but now Fleta gone. This is just gotta be a reset, you know? Even before Fearless dies, they have to reset and go again. This is gonna be below a minute if they can finish, and more than likely, it's going to be an overtime.
Yeah, and they only really get one more push with this. Like, they get one push, and then they get the crazy, like, stagger, switch to Wrecking Ball, like everybody's trying to touch kind of push. I mean, this is 1.5 pushes, you could argue, I guess. But this is their last shot, and they don't have great ultimates for the initiation. Meanwhile, Seoul has EMP. Well, there's another rocket. They're gonna have Gravitic Flux. I mean, they've got all the tools to shut this down. At the very best case scenario for Shanghai, I think they get an overtime finish. Best case scenario.
Yeah. At this point, I kind of have to agree.
Big
Certainly
EMP.
Not looking good for them. EMP comes through, and it's absolutely huge. 5 members hacked. The Bionade out as well. The Nano Boost allows for Fleta to survive and finish off Gesture. Still under a little bit of fire here. Stun in. Fleta now going to be taken down. Shanghai Dragons make their way over to the point, but they're getting picked off one after the other as Fearless does fall. The Res comes after Lee J gone. Now Lip is going to be struck down. Prophet broken up, taken low. Does manage to survive at least for a little bit longer. Lee J gone cannot say the same, and it looks like that might just be it here. Wolf, no progress built up on point B whatsoever. No one nearby to even try and contest this. The time will just dwindle away, and the Seoul Dynasty, they're just going to move up 2-1 in this series. Match point now in their hands. They are 1 map victory away from advancing into the global top 4, the Overwatch League.
What an unlikely scenario. Seoul Dynasty, the ones to topple Shanghai Dragons. If they win one more map, they will be the ones who can say they did it. Knock Shanghai Dragons into the losers bracket. You know, they already played one close series against New York. That's not where they want to be, is having that rematch down in the loser bracket where they might not actually make top 4. They might not make the grand finals. A team that most analysts have been looking at as the big kings of the West, or excuse me, kings of the East, the ones that the West has to go through, right? Shanghai is the final boss for the rest of the teams in Asia to try to go through the finals, and then whoever ends up making it from NA, you know, that's your final boss. That's the last challenge. And Seoul Dynasty is just changing the narrative, you know? Sup, it's a new meta. We practice really hard. We're the best team in Asia at what we do with Roadhog, and even Shanghai Dragons can't break us. And they're 1 win away from defying the Shanghai Dragons and showing us it was not a fluke when they 3-0'd Hangzhou, 3-0'd Guangzhou to get to this point. But actually, they are the masters of the playoff meta.
That all being said, I would still advise on some caution if you're a
Seoul Dynasty caution.
You never know. It's not over yet. Just save the excitement. Push the excitement down for now. Just hold on. If they close out the next map, let loose. Go crazy. Freak out because they will have a nice long break to get ready for the top 4. But it's not over yet. We know how formidable of an opponent the Shanghai Dragons can be. Seoul Dynasty have been reverse swept by them, and Shanghai don't even have to pull that off here in order to get the win. So still, just temper your expectations. Let's see what happens after the next map. Havana's going to be coming up in just a few minutes. We'll see if Shanghai can tie us up yet again, force us into a Game 5, or if Seoul Dynasty will just go ahead and pull off this major upset and lock in their top 4 spot. Don't go anywhere, guys. The action continues in just a few.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
All right, here we go, guys. This could be it. Seoul Dynasty now just one map away from closing out this series over the Shanghai Dragons. Shanghai need to bring it back. They need 2 in a row if they want to lock in their spot in the top 4 globally for the Overwatch League here in 2020. The loser will be falling down into the losers bracket, playing in that final versus NYXL. Neither team wants to be in that position. As you kind of mentioned before the break, Wolf, Shanghai Dragons already played a fairly close series versus New York. 3-1 was the scoreline there, and I don't think that they want to do it again.
No, I mean, and the 3-1 doesn't even show how close it really was. It was very back and forth, and there were definitely moments where Shanghai the series could have slipped away from them. In this series, it feels like the series might slip away from them as well. They seem a little bit lost as to how to deal with this meta. You know, I saw Sideshow tweeting about it. A lot of people feel like the Reaper is a throw, but it's not, right? Like, the Reaper is just standard, right? It's what everyone is running. It's people have Scrimbigots. So you think that Prophet's the first Pharah player in the whole world to run this? We've seen it in NA, we've seen it in Asia, of course these guys have seen it in Scrims. Coach Moon, you know, who's one of the big front runners from Coach of the Year, in my opinion, for the Shanghai Dragons, is telling Shanghai, I know they're going to run Pharah, I know they're going to run these compositions with Sigma and the Roadhog, but I want you to run the Reaper. I guarantee you Shanghai has asked Contenders Korea teams and other Asian teams in Overwatch League to specifically run the Pharah comp, and they're going to run Reaper into it. Like, run this basically hard counter to Reaper, arguably some people would say, and we're going to swim into it, and we're going to find the solution. I guarantee you they've practiced against us 1,000 times, and they still think it's the best way. It might not be, but this is not just Shanghai Dragons going, well, we only know how to do Reaper, so that's just it. They've scrimmed against us, and they feel like they can beat it, and sometimes they are.
We are seeing some variance here. So Shanghai Dragons on the defense, going for the double sniper, with Fearless on the Roadhog. We saw them play a Roadhog in that series versus NYXL, and it looked good. They've been straying away from it for the most part otherwise. Let's see how it fares now in the Hog v Hog. I'll buy into it, Wolf. Double pigs.
There you go.
The good old Jokbal Duge is on the board.
There you go. Well, Fitz is looking for a flank here. I don't think he's been detected yet. He has to slowly push around. But if he actually finds this angle, he could take out Lee Jae-gon.
Gotta be really cautious to where they're trying to position. The arrows are flying. In fact, they're on the Fearless, but he's a beefy boy.
Okay, this is, I mean, just straight up mirror, and look at this. Fitz gets the flank I was talking about. Fearless is trapped.
Find one. Lip going to be taken out as well. Fitz comes up with that kill now. Gesture assassinates Fearless, pulling him in. It's going to be greeted by that boulder as he comes around the corner, but it's very much the Shanghai Dragons who are on the retreat. Right-click spam coming through in the shield breaks as Void will fall as well. Res comes out from Lee Jae-gon. They have the tank line nearby, but can they actually afford to try to go for a recontest? And given how slow moving they are, I think it's a bit too risky, but they're starting to advance, trying to use these experimental barriers to allow them to push up and profit with the Dragon Strike. Already takes out Void, and that is just going to be point A going their way. Pull in onto Fearless just to go ahead and send him back, make sure that he is getting split spawned away from the rest of his squad.
Yeah, this is definitely, I mean, this is reminiscent, isn't it, of Guangzhou Charge versus Seoul Dynasty, right? Where you see the imitation, right, style of comp. Okay, let's match that. Let's run our own Roadhog comp. We're going to run the Zen. We're going to try to outpoke. We're going to try to outrange. We're the defenders. And then you just get outclassed. Not in this case, but there's a res.
Oh,
maybe not.
And that was I would say very ill-advised from Toby. Gesture there to get the punish, but now Rez getting ready to come out from Lee Jae-gon by the look of it.
Wow, breaking the hog rule. Usually it's the second hook that wins out, but not in this case. I gotta say, though, I mean, up until this point, up until this final control that we're seeing from Shanghai Dragons, it looked really grim for them in the matching compositions, but now they have high ground control. Now they have the defender's advantage is starting to work because the tempo advantage that Seoul had has faded away, and Prophet swaps to Genji. Rare swap here, right? This is the first time Seoul Dynasty said, okay, well, we're going to run a counter comp to our style. Many teams before this have actually had to run the Genji versus this double sniper. This is the first time Seoul really has to buy into it. That's telling in a series like this.
It does. It is. It breaks them away from the norm, from what they ideally want to be doing. 4 ultimates up here for the Seoul Dynasty as they just wait out the Infra side from the Shanghai Dragons, which is now expired. Go ahead and start to push in yet again. Fleta making his way up onto the high ground, looking for a shot. Can't quite line that up onto Creative. Drag Strike thrown in, however, here on the stairwell. They're going to be nanoed as Marvel falls low. It's a little bit of shielding from the kinetic grasp, but will be taken down in the end as Fleta finds 2 on the back of the ult. Guess they're going to be stunned out of the hole. Hog Res comes in. On to Fearless, and he will just very swiftly take down Gesture. The cart going to remain halted here inside.
Yep, Seoul Dynasty halted, as you say, and trying to set up for a big fight here.
He hit that hook?
The barrier was pulled at the last second, I think. Like, he actually retracted.
That looked like a whiff.
Yeah, I think he retracted at the last second. That was pretty unlucky. We know how good the Blade can be with the Gravitic Flux. So the big combo earlier this year, it's definitely strong. Not going to have a nano boost, unfortunately, but I mean, that's the opening here the Seoul Dynasty are looking for. And they're finally, you know, forced off of their comfort comp. I mean, sure, they're still kind of running it, but trying to counter Shanghai, who've stolen their comp away, arguably. And this is the hard part, right, where you have to break through the double sniper here with this Blade.
Which they don't quite yet have. Profit just 10% away, however. Fleta offering up quite a bit of damage there on a Gesture. Fitz looking for the shot. Doesn't line it up on the lip and nearly has another infra sight. Wants Izuyaki to pop his head out from around that corner, but he's not going to do it. He's smarter than that.
Fitz is missing these critical shots. He's so close and he's taking these risks, but he's missing. Okay, here's the Flux. Blade is ready. They do not commit. Prophet's out of position. He's going for it now.
Fleta on the back of that Flux. Blade does come through, dives in, looking to take on Void, but the Transcendence comes in from Izuyaki, will keep that Sigma alive. Prophet has to shoot the Blade. Doesn't find too much of anything. Not going to be very impactful. Fearless taking a nap. Gesture pushes forward, gets an nano boost in right as he takes a shot on the Void, finishes him off. Drop down has to come through from Fearless, but the Bionade will seal his fate. Creative lobs that in, and finally the Seoul Dynasty they'll be able to break through onto point B. Void is alive, nearly has a flux, but it would be suicidal for him to push in at this point if he could even get there in time. Yeah. So they have to just let this go. 2:45 on the clock now as Lip takes Vitz's head off again.
It wasn't the blade, but the blade set up for a really nice nano onto Gesture. And now look at how quickly Prophet's farming another one just off of Fearless here. Left clicks coming through at range, headshotting him up to 68%. Void's got his own gravitic flux. They've got this choke controlled, but they don't have anything to pair with the flux, so it doesn't feel that dangerous, doesn't feel that scary. In fact, it actually could be a liability for Void. It could poke his head up too high where it gets taken off.
Uh-oh. Well, even if he didn't get finished in midair, Jester was going off the side of the map. Creative taken down by Lip as well. And that's going to be a very needed reprieve for the Shanghai Dragons. Keep this cart stopped up. Try and keep the Seoul Dynasty contained.
Yeah, it was a really nice play from Fearless to go out aggressively like that and take that flank angle. Like you said, it was going to be an environmental kill either way, but he still finds his way into a really nice spot in order to set up for, you know, a lot of damage, even if he doesn't get that hook kill. It's a really nice flank angle, disrupts Seoul Dynasty's approach, but next blade is ready. It's closing the distance we talked about in the previous series. It's closing the gap here with the blade. That's the hardest part, right? Ooh. You know, Huxall had issues with it earlier. We'll see if Prophet can make this happen. Nano to keep him alive, and here's the blade.
Yeah, blade does get drawn out. Flood of the first one to fall. Extra slice comes in onto Izayaki, cutting him down to size. Void just cannot get that boulder ready to go fast enough. Cannot get the accretion out onto Prophet and shut him down. Suffers the same fate. Lip will find one as Toby does get eliminated, but dash up into the air looking for the kill. Lee Jigon will get shot right at the last second by Fitz. Cart finally and start moving forward, but Shanghai Dragons have a plethora of ultimates to work with for this recontest to try to gain control.
Prophet just proving himself to be the ultimate flex. He's played so many different heroes throughout this series, and he's instrumental in pushing this cart towards C right now. Shanghai Dragons, as you say though, big advantages. They've got total control over the ult economy. This flux, will it lead to a kill? It's going to force a trance.
Forcing the trance, I think Marvel's still going to be pretty satisfied with that as drops back down around the side. Fitz finds Izayaki, Lip found Prophet. Out to Genji. 16 shots from across the way rather, is what I'm trying to say. But Fitz was very much overextended, sitting right outside of the enemy spawn. Now Jester going to be taken down with 25 seconds left to go. Seoul Dynasty have to reset right here, right now, if they want to get this cart across. Prophet, however, basically forced to continue playing forward as he needs to get that Dragon Blade online. Flux will come through looking for Marvel. He's just going to get slammed back down to the ground. Fearless with the whole hog gets rid of Creative. But the DPS duo for the Seoul Dynasty start to strike back. Void gone, has to be res back in, but Fearless still going to be out of the fight. Has that faster run back though. As Lip gets the dink onto Jester, trying to get rid of that enemy Roadhog. Pops up over the top, finds the shot onto Fitz. Gets the kill, now reroutes, looks for a flank angle. Comes in, body shot goes out onto Gesture. Prophet gone with the blade drawn. Cannot use it for anything. Feels going to be antied. Marvel rejoining into the fight as the whole hog gets interrupted by the deep pull in from Fearless. And that will be it. The cart cannot finish on Havana. Seoul Dynasty going to be stopped short.
Seoul Dynasty, though, I mean, they're the team that popularized this comp. They're the team who found the most success with it. And now they get to have Defender's Advantage. Now they get to run double sniper pig's feet. Now they get to control how this choke works, how the long sight lines work. And it might be Fleta who has to play Genji, right? It might be Shanghai who has to flex. And, you know, if they try to run double sniper versus Seoul, and Seoul ends up winning the sniper war there with their positional advantages and sightline advantages, it's going to cost Shanghai a lot of time. So we'll see how quickly Shanghai decide to adapt. Watch this blade, by the way. Interrupt. Completely neutralized by Fearless.
Absolutely decimated. And then Fearless gets the interrupt on Gesture's whole hog here as well. Gets the pull while he gets knocked away. And just shuts it down.
Makes you wonder if Shanghai's been trying to hide the fact that they can run this, and they're just feeling desperate to do it now because, you know, their top 4 life is on the line. Sure, they could, you know, obviously still make it if they lose today, but, you know, you're in a position where you're suddenly, you know, uncomfortable, and you're like, well, we got to show everyone that Fearless is actually insane on the Roadhog, and he's played it historically speaking.
Yeah, I'd say the Fearless Hog is very pog.
There you go.
Nice little rhyme.
All right, Seoul Dynasty, double sniper, no variations. Shanghai Dragons matching, but will they keep Fleta on this Hanzo, or will he be forced to swap to Genji? That's the real question. We'll get the answer shortly.
Well, not going for any sort of forward hold here. In Seoul Dynasty, we've seen a lot of teams being willing to do that on Havan because you have time to recontest. If you lose a fight up around this corner, much more difficult for you to actually try to regain control of the cart before it rolls into A. They just play back respectfully here. Actually on a little bit of a split. They realize there's a Roadhog right around the corner. Well, they do now. Fearless taking a ton of damage, barely makes it back, and even with a Mega Pack, doesn't have much HP, but Marvel has none. Void takes him down. Gesture, Discord Orb. Sleep Dart connects onto Fearless. They're looking for the finish. Gesture finds the kill. Goes in for a hook. Can't get it. Rez is there, however, from Toby. Puts Gesture back into the fight, but Fearless gets the same treatment from Lee J. Gone. Creative throwing down that Bionade. Tries to win out the trade. Cannot do so. It's a very scrappy fight, but one that looks like Seoul Dynasty should be able to win as Prophet just scoops 3 kills on the back end.
Good old Sonic Arrow cancel kill, where you just cancel out the attack animation and insta shoot with a Sonic Arrow. Now going to stagger Fleta. Sort of.
There it is. Well, it's Prophet that gets it in the end.
But it's a pretty nice time buy here for Seoul Dynasty. They need to get into position again here. Those favors, the spawn favors Shanghai. So the cart keeps pushing. Seoul want to contest this though. They want to keep the sightline advantage one more time before B. They can buy so much more time if they can get a fight here.
Dragon Strike coming through. Fearless dipping in and out of that. Gets the pull onto Gesture. Fleta lines up the Storm Arrow. Headshot to finish him off. Dragon Strike invested. Marvel taking a ton of damage with the help of that Discord Orb. Now one final shot to the dome. Fleta gets rid of the enemy Sigma. Prophet pushes up. Fleta ready for him, but knows that he can't contest with the duo with Toby pocketing him unless he just goes ahead and finishes Toby.
I mean, this is about as well as it could have gone for Shanghai Dragons, and they didn't have to swap Fleta. It's actually Prophet who swaps on the defense to the Genji here to deal with Shanghai's attacking double sniper. If that's not a sign of a change in this series, I don't know what is. Shanghai Dragons are essentially outdoing Seoul with their own composition here. And that's the comeback, right? That's the turning point, potentially, of this series, is Seoul getting out-sold.
Now has to be used to get the interrupt. Whole Hog now getting pulled in. Gesture takes one down. Does get kept alive, but can't deny the res from Lee J. Gone. So Fearless is straight back into the mix. Prophet hovering above, looking for some right-click targets, but the team is just dying around him. Gesture gone again. Creative taken down by Fearless. Flux comes out from Marvel as he looks to turn things around. It's just no follow-up damage there available onto the tanks. Prophet falling low. Fights his way back with the deflection. It does expire. Pocket healing is out. Toby barely keeping him alive. As Void continues to advance, looking to gain this left side high ground. Very exciting gameplay, watching two Sigmas with shields
it used to be a lot
throw
worse.
left clicks at each other.
It used to be a lot worse.
That's very true. Dragon Strike now coming through from Fleta, gets rid of Marvel. Dragon rolls down here onto the low ground. Fleta follows up for a second kill, this time finding Prophet. Liv finds Toby. Gesture will get a pull in the Lee J. Gone, but that will cost him his life as the card continues to roll forward. This is about to be a massive time bank for the Shanghai Dragons, who don't even have to finish this map. Prophet is abandoning the Genji play, swaps back over to the Honda.
Well, this is the part where the same problems I was talking about closing the gap with Genji apply here on the defense, where you want to have those sight lines. But I mean, Shanghai are in a commanding control of this map. Like, it looks like their map pick, you know? It looks like they have just no fear here. It looks like they were the ones who popularized the comp. They're just forcing Seoul Dynasty into these uncomfortable positions. It's something I didn't think we were going to see in this series based on the start, but there you go. Lip's got vision control.
Oh, he gets that shot to that tiny little gap. Fitz gets taken down. Lee Jae-gon has fallen, but Izayaki still very much alive and well. He has cleaned up both kills onto the tank. Slip pushing forward, gets the body shot there onto Toby. With, 3 minutes and 26 seconds remaining, Shanghai Dragons have the card rounding the final corner. Prophet again desperately swapping over to the Genji, says, no, I have to go back to the Hanzo. And meanwhile, Shanghai just continue to push forward. They get a pick on the Fitz, and now they're going to have 5 ults in the bank ready to roll. Might not even get to use all of them. The card has to be contested. They finally touch. 3.73 meters left to go as Creative will die. Toby takes to the skies. Accretion to the face. Gesture taken down. Sorry, Piggy. As they will go ahead and clean this up. Map 5 indeed, Wolf. This one has to go the distance. They'll get the final kills. The Dragon strike in celebration. Havana is the Shanghai Dragons' map, and we are tied up 2-2.
Very, very close series. I mean, about as exciting as it gets. But the scary part is for the Seoul fans, right? I mean, this is the part where you're like, oh no, everything came true. We got too excited. We were in total control.
I warned you
Shanghai
all.
couldn't match
I
us.
warned you all.
And then suddenly, Shanghai matches their comp, beats their comp, their map pick, and it feels like, uh-oh. Like, is this the end? Like, you're already feeling desperation. You're already feeling like, oh my god, I think we've lost this one as we go into the 5th map, right?
Well, they looked good on control, and this is their pick. So if they can go for a control map that really suits their play style, then perhaps Seoul Dynasty can still yet walk away with this one. But it all comes down to this one final map. We're going to find out what it is, where we're going, and who will be victorious, advancing into the top 4 when we come back from the break. So don't go anywhere, guys, because you do not want to miss the end of this series.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
All right, guys, here we go. Map 5 in this incredible series between the Shanghai Dragons and the Seoul Dynasty. Of course, it had to go the distance. Everything is on the line right now in this set. Loser has to go against NYXL tomorrow. The winner is golden. They are set for a while until the top 4 compete here in Asia. You have plenty of time to practice. Both of these teams want that time off to scrim, to get ready to try to win the championship, to not have to play against New York just tomorrow and risk getting knocked out of this of the 2020 season. It's everything on the line right now for both of these teams.
It really is. I mean, this is everything that you're fighting for. This is everything that you've been working towards for a whole year, and winning this next map gets you to skip a step, right? You get to go through the warp pipe. You get to, you get to cheat, essentially one round. You don't have to show any more strategies. Shanghai's already been forced to show that they're very good at this Roadhog style that they were unwilling to show us for the first few maps, but it brought us into this 5th map on Seoul's map pick, and they dominated with it. It wasn't even close. That's worrisome because, yeah, it was a good showing for Seoul on the first map of Control. They won with a 2-0, had some really compelling team fights. Weren't even running this exact comp, but they were running their own Roadhog style. But now Shanghai might just match them and say, well, we're not hiding this anymore, and we're better than you at it, so haha, too bad. You lose game 5. Good luck with New York. That might happen. We'll have to wait and see. The map, did you say the map yet?
I did not.
Well, we're loading into it. And there it is, Lijiang Tower.
To settle it
we
all.
started on a Korean map. We're ending on a Chinese map. The series started.
I was just about to mention that. Oh, boy.
There you go.
Maybe I did caster curse him after all. If that's the case, if that's how this goes. Because I set up that whole home field advantage storyline. But alrighty. It all comes down to this. Teams are going to be assembling in the dropships, getting ready to go. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at what we are potentially going to be able to expect here. Lip looking for the McCree alongside the May. We saw this in our last series. And Fearless on the Reinhardt.
Well, I got to say, I've been wanting to see Lip McCree for a long time in this series. It's kind of a catch-all. He's not going to necessarily run it. I mean, he might still swap to it after the port. I'm going to skip the port. But this is a very good catch-all. It's good against the Pharah. It's good against Dive. It's good against pretty much everything if you can actually control the point and chip away. Interesting wrap.
Even with the low ceilings, Prophet's going to be going for the Pharah. Likely going to be playing around the outside of the map. Yeah, you can already see him going for this little balcony here.
I like where Gesture
Walkway,
is. This is kind of, they have this like element of surprise here. Okay, this gets scouted out here by Void. And this is going to force them off, but I mean, they end up just dropping down. Ice Wall is too late.
Oh,
no, it's not.
The wall was so crucial. Cut off Marble. Prophet, however, on the reapproach, finds Lip. Leto will strike him down, taking him out of the sky, as Void is just going to be hacked here for the moment. Gesture desperately trying to pop somebody as best as he possibly can with that shotgun. Will be getting frozen. Is cut off. Takes a breather. Frozen yet again. Headshots come in. He will get taken down. Seoul Dynasty on the map for 15%, but then Shanghai Dragons take it right out from under them.
Yep, Shanghai Dragons in prime position here now to hold as well. Like, you think it's hard to approach as far on this map. It is, but now you've got a McCree to deal with. He does find the angle here, but how free is he going to be to actually do damage is the question. He's trying to split this team up.
Shanghai Dragons kind of split themselves. They move over to the side. Cap does nearly come in. They get back in time, obviously. Prophet just going to continue to try to farm where he can. Toby taking some shots. Prophet does get dinked. Spitz tries to farm here on the low ground. It's tagged up quite a bit. 13 now 12% away from the EMP. It'll be an absolutely huge one for them to try to turn this point into their favor. Izayaki rolling with that coalescence, but Jester comes in from behind. It's a little bit of a jump scare on him, pulls him in, takes him down. That's both supports gone. Now the DPS eliminated. Flip comes through for the Seoul Dynasty. They can just leave Void out to dry.
I mean, this is a really fantastic flip, and they have EMP for the choke. Shanghai Dragons have obviously ult advantage, but it's difficult. It's not really ult advantage if you can't get through the choke to use it, right? And I'm going to take a wide approach here, it looks like. There's some discussion actually about how to do this, waiting for Void. Going to try to speed boost their way in to set up for a Blizzard fight. I mean, there's no Diva. Marvel can eat it, but it's extremely unlikely. It's going to be from above, it looks like, is their plan for the execution here.
Deadeye to start. Blizzard coming through. EMP manages to catch on the 5, but Lip with the Deadeye takes down 3, including 2 of the tanks. They just couldn't do anything. Drops down, finds a 4th. That is the wipe. That is the recap here for the Shanghai Dragons.
I mean, it doesn't get better than
EMP
that. That was basically perfect.
Lip shuts them down.
You don't get a better fight than that. You don't get a better Deadeye than that. Perfectly executed from Lip. Fitz gets taken out here.
He kills Fitz again. He kills Fitz again.
I think presumably by a flashbang, you have to assume, but insane. And Lip is trying to steal player of the match right now away in this 5th and final map. He is killing it, and right now Seoul Dynasty, I mean, they've got a nano, but there's no good way to try to take this fight, in terms of an ultimate. They've got Whole Hog too, but difficult to execute. Gesture roaming right now. Prophet trying to chip away while avoiding Lip's sightlines.
Lip Splitting his attention, trying to line up the shot. He gets the double tap on the Providence, goes in for the boosters. Hack will come out onto the Cowboy and look for the kill. Haven't quite found it yet. Anaboost comes out onto Gesture as the pin comes in from Fearless. The sound barrier shield still rolling. Hook not going to connect the Deadeye out. Gesture taken down. Prophet joins him in the grave. Gets a fadeaway rocket from beyond the grave, but that is going to be the OT ticking down. Shanghai Dragons take the first round, 159%. Seoul Dynasty, can they bounce back and force us to a round 3 here?
Legendary round for Shanghai Dragons. I mean, absolutely crazy. Fearless's PogChamp-esque freeze face that we saw on the screen there for a second, I think was the ultimate expression of what we just saw from Shanghai. Lip got so many crazy eliminations from Deadeye, but also just from shutting down flank, shutting down Prophet hard on the McCree. This is the McCree I was wondering, why aren't we seeing this? You know, okay, sure, somebody's got to play Sombra, oftentimes not on Control Center because, you know, that's how the map plays differently, but usually someone's got to play Sombra so you don't get to see the Lip McCree. But yeah, I'm so glad we did on that last round. Fleta going to swap over the Pharah, and it's going to be an almost mirror matchup here. Pharah versus Pharah for the first time in this series. Took us to the final map to see it, but we do get to see that.
It's quite an exciting one here. Fearless hacked, taken low, finished off his Gesture, claims the kill. Lip trying to farm up, but hasn't been able to get too much done with this Sombra. Constantly been hovering rather low into the HP bar, so it does have to go ahead and back off. First cap now going to be coming through for the Seoul Dynasty.
They get the first cap. Risky to put it all on the line here. So Shanghai Dragons with Fleta versus Prophet.
Uh-oh, Fitz overextends. Doesn't have a way out. Lip manages to find the kill. Marvel swaps late onto the Zarya here. Wants a reliable way to knock Void out of the mech, but Fearless just pulls him in. And he does get eliminated. Pocket healing there, not going to be enough for Gesture, as he will get taken down, and Prophet's got to go ahead and peel back. Fleta and Prophet pretty much neck and neck with that final rocket. They are dead even. As Fleta takes a slight lead.
Yeah, Fleta takes...
Say that, it's just, I mean, it's just a pendulum swing at this point.
But now...
The barrage is up for both
Shanghai
bars.
Dragons need to control this bridge if they can, prevent the tank line from crossing. Obviously, Marvel can fly, but Gesture's not going to have that same privilege. And they actually just let it go. Fleta's actually staying low to the ground here. This opportunity is huge now for them because they've closed that gap. They need to take a hard engage fast, though. They're being so patient. They get to the point first. Sleep.
Gesture asleep. EMP comes in, catches on the 3 members, including Prophet. The Nano Boost goes out from Creative to try to keep him alive, but it's going to be Gesture. Here's the first one to fall. Fleta still looking for the shots, and Prophet finishes himself off as he pursues in to try to knock Fleta out of the sky. He's just unable to do it. Now they go in on the hunt, get the cleanup onto Creative. Seoul Dynasty have to do something soon to try to get this point.
I mean, this is... Seoul Dynasty went 7-0 before they lost their first map in playoffs. They had total control over the series. Things are slipping away now. They have ult advantage here, but they've had ult advantage for a while. Still haven't been able to hold on to this point, haven't been able to turn this into their favor. Shanghai Dragons might just run away with this game right now. The spread is immaculate here for Shanghai. This is going to be a tough EMP to get value for if you're Fitz.
Okay, Prophet finds one. No Nano Boost in the fight here. On the side of Shanghai, Void pushes forward, gets rid of Fitz. Now there's no EMP. Toby, can he come up with a res? Be absolutely huge for them. Self-destruct going to be lobbed in. Prophet dips down to avoid it, but Fearless
Soul's in trouble.
Leaves down Gesture with the whole hog. Toby, now Prophet going to be gone. It's 95% on the board. Fleta uses the barrage, but still will get eliminated. But there's still 3 members gone for the Seoul Dynasty as we enter into OT. EMP gets used by Fitz. He's looking for Lip, cannot finish him off. He survives with a sliver of HP and almost has an EMP of his own to try to counter things. Fleta comes in, comes up with 3 kills. Looks for just a little bit more. The OT is going to start bleeding away. Prophet and Toby, the last 2 alive, trying to make it happen. The barrage finds one, but Fearless gets rid of the Pharah. The Mercy goes down. The OT bleeds away. And it was so close, but still so far for the Seoul Dynasty. Shanghai Dragons take the series 3-2 in the end. They are the first team in the Overwatch League to lock themselves into the top 4 globally. And for the Seoul Dynasty, unfortunately, they have to play again if they want to join Shanghai. They have to beat the NYXL tomorrow.
what a crazy turnaround. I still can't believe what we've just watched. I mean, we saw everything that Overwatch has to offer. Two competing compositions against each other, two different styles of play, two different metas internally within these teams clashing. We saw a match come through from Shanghai Dragons. They matched Seoul's comp. They copied it, right? I mean, obviously every team is running this, right? But no one's really running it against Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty is running it every map. Shanghai comes in, forces Profit off of his hero. He forces him onto the Genji, forces Seoul off of their comp, and forcing them to run the counter comp to the composition they popularized. We go into a final map where Lip pops off. I mean, every single player on the Shanghai Dragons had an integral part of bringing this series back. Shanghai, sure, they probably wanted to hide their Roadhog comps. They probably wanted to hide how much they were well-versed on that. They got forced. Their hand got forced on it. But I think they're going to be okay with that, skipping tomorrow's match and having a ton of extra prep time for that top 4. And the Seoul fans, disappointed again. They're not out completely, but they were so close.
Still a chance. Very, very close. I mean, it's still got to be extremely frustrating to be in this position to have to play another series versus the NYXL, who has had a lot of tape to study when it comes down to what the Seoul Dynasty playstyle is going to be. Whether or not NYXL can play up against that and beat it, I have no clue, and we'll just have to wait and find out about that come tomorrow. But this is definitely not a position that any fan of any team wants to be in. For Shanghai Dragons, though, they are through. They are coasting from here as they wait for that top 4 grand finals competition to begin. Let's go ahead and take a look at our player of the match, however. Here presented by Xfinity, and it is Fearless, breaking the chain of supports winning and taking one away for the tanks.
Yeah, Fearless had a really great performance across the board. Regardless of what tank he was on, obviously having a really nice performance on Winston, sticking to the meta, quote-unquote, when we were on King's Row and kind of forcing his way to great success there, helping Shanghai bring the series back. Playing the Roadhog on Havana, outdoing Gesture in a lot of ways, catching Gesture oftentimes and kind of breaking that tried and true Roadhog rule of always hook second. You know, he's hooking first and having the support to back him up. Killing Gesture oftentimes, setting up for his nice flank angles, and then comes in on the Rhine, has a great performance there on the end. I mean, Fearless, he is the player that came back to Shanghai Dragons. You know, he's part of this whole season has been his redemption story, and he played a big part of bringing them to top 4 now. He might take Shanghai, the team that was winless, the team he had not won a single series on in 2018, he might bring that very team to the grand finals and maybe to their first title.
It is very, very possible. Still clearly some things to work on here, some flaws exposed in the armor for the Shanghai Dragons, but they have that time on their side. They are the first team locked into the top 4. For the rest, we have to just wait a little bit longer. I mean, we've got NA matches that are going to be coming up here in a bit. I believe it's Shock versus Philly to decide the first team from North America. That will be coming over to Asia. Seoul Dynasty versus New York tomorrow to figure out who the final team from the APAC region is going to be. And then obviously we don't know what the results are going to be like for NA for that potential second seed yet. But man, I mean, everything is coming to a head here, Wolf. We're almost at the end of the season. After such a long regular season, it was 29 weeks, and now this this playoff bracket coming through, getting ready for both sides to merge, APAC and North America. The excitement levels are just through the roof right now. Shanghai, they got to be feeling pretty damn good. Seoul Dynasty fans, it's not over yet. We'll see what happens, but that's tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in tonight, however. Thank you to our production staff for staying up late, and for Wolf joining us here, and for everybody for the birthday wishes yesterday. That was also pretty nice. But thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you back here tomorrow to see what the final team from the APAC region is going to be. But make sure you also tune in to the North American matches and see who the first squad from that side is going to be. That's going to be coming up in just a few hours, so stay awake, take a nap, whatever you got to do. Make sure you don't miss the action.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League.